76%. Chapter 301. Zhang Chushuan's scheme. Ghost Fox reappears. Subscription required. Oh, that's all. Zhang Chushuan smiled and shook his head, handing a storage bag into Yi Zai's hands. Yi Zai's expression changed slightly. She thought that Zhang Chushuan was gathering some of the eye-catching gains together, and that was the only point. But when God penetrated into the storage bag and found that it was all ordinary things, even some mundane gold and silver jewelry was also in it, he was suddenly confused. Fujun, that's it. Yi Zai's face was full of disbelief. Yes, 99. Zhang Chushuan laughed and said nothing. Powerful 6-rank power, just such a little background. Yi Shi said he couldn't figure it out. Zhang Chushuan has no reason to deceive her in this regard. But why, Fujun, shouldn't you leave all your resources at the Blood Knife Gate just to stir up some strife among forces? Yi Shi quickly thought of something and sighed. The dynasty is so big, and the daily consumption of resources is even more innumerable, although the harvest is more. But since Fujun extinguished the Blood Knife Gate, why didn't he bring back the high-end resources in it? At this time, Yi Shi was completely a fan of wealth, not at all like a queen. You. Zhang Chushuan couldn't help pinching Yi Shichong's nose, and said with a doting smile, don't tease you, I will let Wu Yanxi pack and take away the really good things, which is only about half of the Yanwang King inventory. 35. The inventory of the Yanwang dynasty is about half of the Zongjia inventory, and the Zongjia inventory is about half of the resources in Zhang Chushuan's hands, not including high-end items. There is a 100-fold reward, it's so willful. People have thousands of years of resource base of 6-rank forces, and they can easily catch up and surpass. During this time, Zhang Chushuan said that he was cultivating in retreat, but in fact, he did not need to break through to the Saint Lord level for the time being, nor did he need to cultivate, but he was spending time to increase 100-fold. Increase the resources obtained by the Blood Knife Gate 100-fold. At that time, the background of the Yanwang dynasty can directly catch up with the old 5-product forces. Cut, I knew you and the old fox wouldn't be that good. 99. Yi Shi retracted his expression, a look I had guessed a long time ago. Oh yes. Yi Zai's face turned serious, and he said solemnly to Zhang Chushuan, this matter will definitely be spread out to expand the prestige of my Yanwang dynasty, especially in the matter of conquering the Lin dynasty. When do you think it's appropriate, husband? No hurry, I have my own plan for this. 35. Zhang Chushuan said with a smile. Let's see the reaction of those 6-rank forces first. There are only a few 6-product forces in Nanling Zuyu, and the attitude of Wenxin Academy is known. The Blood Knife Gate has also been destroyed. Now there are only the Water Dragon Hall and Shengyang Gate left, so Chong is not in a hurry. Yi Shi rolled his eyes, and quickly understood what Zhang Chushuan meant, and immediately showed a sly smile. Hee, it's still a powerful husband, it's really a ghost fox. Ghost fox. Tut, a long-lost title. Zhang Chushuan smiled and said, then do you want to try? My old fox is powerful. Lingering with Yi Shi, Zhang Chushuan returned to the Zhang mansion and gathered Zhang Jingshuan and the other concubines. Jingxin, tell me, how did you do with the things that were handed to you before? When Zhang Jingxin heard this, he immediately stood up. Dad, I have visited more than a dozen state cities, but less than 5 fingers have accepted our Yanwang Chamber of Commerce to gain a foothold in it. Among them, the biggest resistance is the families in the city. 55. After all, they have been operating for many years and have long penetrated into all aspects, and it is impossible to give up part of this cake. 35. This matter will be put to an end first, and you will list all the cities and families that you do not accept, and visit them one by one in the future. When Zhang Jingxin heard this, he immediately agreed. Dad, I'll do it later. Dad, you summoned us all, did you have any orders? Zhang Jingshuan suddenly asked. Zhang Chushuan nodded and waved casually. The next moment, everyone had an extra jade symbol in their hands. At the same time, Zhang Chushuan's voice came. This is a formation called the Nine Heavens God Thunder Formation, which is an offensive and defensive formation and it's formidable formation. Quote. Look at it, remember what you need to get the materials, and try to collect them. When everyone heard this, they immediately put their divine thoughts into the Jade Jane. After a while, they burst into exclamations. Dad, with this formation, many of us in the Yanwang dynasty have the means to cross the rank to kill the enemy. 35. This formation, just the information in the record, looks extremely strong. Zhang Chushuan's face was flat, and he threw out some Jade Jane in front of them. This is the 5-dragon lock immortal array that I and Fu Lord recently developed. In addition to attack and defense, it also has the effect of concealing the aura, and you also look for the materials needed in it. 99. But there is no need to hurry about this matter. You just need to pay attention to it on weekdays, don't delay your cultivation. Seeing that his own grandfather, was like throwing cabbage, throwing these two formations to them, Zhang Jingxuan and the others had long been stunned. Dad, what secret realm or sect have you robbed again? Zhang Jingxuan couldn't help but ask curiously in his heart. This is another word, and it is used very magically. Just get used to it. Zhang Chushuan smiled mysteriously and did not explain much. Well, that's all I have to say today. Now our primary goal is to become stronger. Yi Shi is responsible for the matter of strengthening the Yanwang dynasty. As long as we continue to become stronger and escort her, we will always be invincible. You all cultivate hard. There will be more important tasks waiting for you in the future. Yes, Daddy, Grandpa. At the same time, Wen Renji and Hu Qing had already returned to Wenxin Academy with Wen Hai and other students. When he learned that these students had received gifts from Zhang Chushuan, the great elder was also shocked, and hurriedly called Wen Renji, along with the dean of the academy. One by one, the storage bags were handed over to them, and after checking, Rao Shi, who had already seen a lot of strong winds and waves, couldn't help but gasp. The blood knife door was destroyed. The head of the Zhang family still allows the students of my academy to collect the loot. Good. Wen Renji was very proud of his judgment this time, and told what happened to Hu Qing and Wen Hai at the blood knife gate. Dean, good Jiao Hao, great elder, this Zhang patriarch's means are really amazing, and the blood knife gate was destroyed by one of them. We made the right decision. 35. The great elder nodded in agreement and said, Yanwang dynasty, no, Zhang family, we must not fight with it. It seems that the previous appointment of Zhang Yanren as the honorary dean has done a good job. 5. No, I don't think just one honorary dean is not enough. This Zhang Chushuan's ambition is not small, the future is immeasurable, and it is impossible to stop at the 6-rank forces in the future. Seeing the light in the eyes of the great elder, the dean seemed to realize something, and his eyes widened. Teacher, you mean? That's right, only by doing this can we try to show our attitude as much as possible. 99. After all, judging from Zhang Chushuan's previous style, everyone who is attached to him and is absolutely loyal is now very disobedient, and both the family and the power have been greatly improved. We don't make a decision, although Wenxin Academy can't become the next blood knife gate, but the other party may not be able to target us. 76%. Chapter 302 Surrender the State. Wenxin Academy submits subscription required. Lord, the great elder of Wenxin Academy heard that Feng Yun is here and asked to see you. Yi Shi, who had just retreated from the dynasty and had met many ministers, was about to return to the dormitory to deal with government affairs, when he suddenly received a report from the personal guard. Wenxin Academy. Great elder, how did they come to see me? I don't know about my humble duties. Yi Wucheng said in a deep voice, but seeing that he asked for an audience according to etiquette, he obviously did not come to find fault, and I heard that the Lord of Yanren County in the prince's family has become the honorary dean of the Warm Academy. King, see or not? See, of course see. Yi Shi was silent for a moment and said in a deep voice, see. See you for sure. You take them to the Yanwang Palace first, and I'll go and call the prince over. 39. As soon as he heard that this matter was about to alarm Zhang Chushuan, Yi Wushang changed her anger slightly, and hesitated for a moment before saying, Lord, if the matter is still discussed, call the prince to come over. Yi Maicheng is grateful to Zhang Chushuan. Originally, the Yi family was gone, and Yi Shi fled even more miserably. Now he has become the lord of the 6-pin dynasty. How lucky. There's nothing bad, Auntie will do as I say. Yi Shi said that Zhang Chushuan did nothing every day, and he was happy to call him at this time. Yi Wucheng didn't say anything anymore, turned around and walked over. Yi Shi slowly stood up and looked into the distance through the gate of the main hall. Wenxin Academy. It won't really be the same as the husband said. Quote. Yi's eyes muttering, no one heard. Coming to his senses, he took out the token and sent the news to Zhangchu 377 Zan. Zhang Chushuan, who was resting, heard this, and the corners of his mouth turned up. Wenxin Academy heard Feng Yun. It seems to be that thing. Quote. Then I have to go. 35. When it comes to several states, Zhang Chushuan will naturally not neglect it. Queen of the Divine Phoenix, old man Wenxin Academy heard Feng Yun, and admired the name for a long time. In the Yanwang Palace, Yi Shi sat on the main seat on the left, and there was still a place on her right. Hearing this, Yi Shi nodded slightly, and said with a smile, Elder Wen Fengyan, this king has also been fascinated by Wenxin Academy for a long time. I don't know why the great elder came this time. Straight to the point, is Yi Zai's style. Wen Fengyan has been very calm. Queen Divine Phoenix, I think Prince Zhang Chushuan will come over soon. There's something I want to talk about when he comes over. I think you don't want the old man to talk more, and ask Queen Yi Shi not to be surprised. Yes. Seeing that Fang Yun put his posture very low, Yi Shi didn't mind in the slightest, let alone be unhappy by Zhang Chushuan's head. This situation made Wen Fengyan more determined in his heart, and couldn't help but smile and nod. Lord Prince arrives. Not long ago, the waiter at the door shouted, attracting the attention of everyone in the Yanwang Palace. Zhang Chushuan, dressed in his regular clothes, stepped and looked indifferent. After walking to the position next to Yi Shi and sitting down, he looked at Wen Fengyan and said with a smile, it turned out to be a Taoist friend of Wenxin Academy. Taoist friends are coming, I don't know why. Wen Fengyan's eyes narrowed slightly, and he spoke without hurry. The old man heard that Lord Prince extinguished the blood sword gate with his own strength, and he wanted to admire the style. When Zhang Chushuan heard this, his expression remained unchanged. I did it. 35. When Renji of the Japanese New Academy was present that day, and many students participated, and this matter could not be hidden, and he did not think to hide it. That's it. When Fengyan stood up and saluted Zhang Chushuan and Yi Shi, I, Wenxin Academy, voluntarily joined the Yanwang dynasty. If the Yanwang dynasty is willing, it can send troops and officials to the major state cities. 55. Hearing Fang Yun's words were astonishing, which surprised Yi Shi. It's so crisp. But Zhang Chushuan seemed to have noticed it a long time ago, and a seemingly non-existent smile appeared on his face. Are you sure Grand Elder Wen is not joking? Zhang Chushuan didn't believe it. This new academy took the initiative to give up several major states, and would not mention any conditions. The old man did not laugh. This matter has been discussed with the dean and many elders, and they all agree that Wenxin Academy is the best way to join the Yanwang dynasty. At this moment, Zhang Chushuan became completely serious. In that case, I wonder what conditions Wenxin Academy has. Since Wen Fengyan represented Wenxin Academy, Zhang Chushuan also spoke in an official manner. However, after hearing this, Wen Fengyan only shook his head slightly. There are no conditions, I just hope to be able to advance and retreat with the Yanwang dynasty and lead my Wenxin Academy. No, the human race will go further. Quote. Wenxin Academy aims to cultivate Terran talents and compete with foreign races and evil races. When the words fell, Wen Fengyan took out a piece of spiritual deed from the storage ring and said to the two, Queen Yi Shi, Lord Prince, this is the spiritual text drafted by my Wenxin Academy. As long as the Yanwang dynasty agrees, it can be immediately announced to the world and let the world know this news. 99. The prefectures under the jurisdiction of our Wenxin Academy will be managed by you. Once this spiritual contract is released, it will let many cultivators know that the Yanwang dynasty is powerful, and even forces like Wenxin Academy will submit to the subordinates, and their status in the southern Lingzhou domain and even the entire Lingzhou domain will rise at that time. But at the same time, this will also establish enemies for the Yanwang dynasty. After all, Wenxin Academy has always been committed to cultivating talents for the human race, and is the biggest enemy of the foreign race and the evil race. However, for Zhang Chushuan, he is inherently opposed to the foreign race and the evil race, and there is no need to consider this aspect at all. Thinking of this, Zhang Chushuan looked at Yi Shi on his side and said with a smile, Sire, how do you think this matter should be handled? Yes or no? In front of outsiders, Zhang Chushuan still wanted to respect Yi Zai's opinion. She is the queen. Yi Shi didn't expect Zhang Chushuan to ask his opinion, but he still thought about it seriously and said solemnly, I think I should agree to come down. The Zui Phoenix body is not weaker than people. What's more, she has long known that Zhang Chushuan's ambitions are far more than that. This matter can just add countless foundations to the Yanwang dynasty, and the so-called enemy already exists, so why not? Okay, then listen to you. Zhang Chushuan nodded and said to Wen Fengyan, Wen Daoyu, from now on, we will be our own family. Quote. Lord Prince's words are serious. Wen Fengyan bowed his head slightly, and handed the spirit contract to Yi Wushang on the side. With this spiritual contract, the troops and officials of the Yanwang dynasty could pass unimpeded in the major states in the hands of Wenxin Academy. King Yi Wucheng presented the spirit contract to Yi Shi. who glanced at Zhang Chushuan, and after seeing the other party nod, his mind moved, summoned the Gentian Phoenix seal, ran luck, and covered it. Boom. 35. The Spirit Covenant is established. Almost at the same time, Wenxin Academy was within the territory of the Yanwang dynasty. Everyone felt as if something had changed. Those who are strong can feel that a special aura is heading all the way from the territory of Wenxin Academy towards the Yanwang dynasty. After putting away the spiritual contract, Yi Shi said to Wen Fengyan with a smile, "In this case, Wen Fengyan, please stay for a few days first, and wait for this king to fulfill the friendship of the landlord and entertain him." Wen Fengyan originally wanted to stay in the Yanwang dynasty to see if this magical dynasty was as mysterious as the outside world said, so he directly agreed, "Thank you, Queen. Then the old man will leave first." Aha, Wen Fengyan walks slowly. "Come, send Wen Fengyan to Wenxin Academy to rest." 39. Yes, Wen Fengyan, who was being led by the attendant to the door of Yanwang Palace, suddenly turned to look at Zhang Chushuan. "Lord Prince, I don't know that the honorary president of my Wenxin Academy, that is, your granddaughter, Zhang Yanran, is available at this time. This is the first time I want to find my own person to deepen the relationship." Zhang Chushuan smiled. "Unfortunately, this girl Yanran will be in retreat as soon as she comes back. I don't know when she will come out, and please hear Fang Yun." So it's the old man who is abrupt. 76%. Chapter 303. The news of the secret realm brought by Bai Tanur. Wen Daoyu can play in my Yanwang dynasty for a few days, and once the Yanran is released, the king will let her go to you. Wenxin Academy had just announced its merger into the Yanwang dynasty, and Zhang Chushuan's attitude was naturally excellent. Anyone can say anything about the scene. Then, "Thank you, Prince." Wen Fengyan saluted again, and then turned around and left with the waiter. After he left, Yi Shi looked at Zhang Chushuan. "Master, what kind of medicine is sold in this Wenxin Academy?" "Well, I don't know, maybe it's related to the inheritance of the academy." Zhang Chushuan shook his head slightly, did not feel that there was any conspiracy, and said in a good mood, "However, it is a good thing to be able to fight without bloodshed, and even Wenxin Academy takes the initiative to belong, so there is no need to think about it." 5. Yi Shi was naturally intelligent, and knew the Great Elder's intentions from the beginning, otherwise he would not have sat in this position. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan thought for a moment and said, "Then according to what the Great Elder said, tell the world. Anyway, sooner or later this matter will be spread out, it is better for us to take the initiative to release it. Well, everything is at the mercy of the husband." Over time, the news that the Blood Knife Gate was destroyed has not yet been digested, and there is a piece of information that shocks the entire Nanling Zhou domain. Have you heard? The Six-Pin Force Wenxin Academy actually took the initiative to merge into the Yanwang dynasty and decided to be annexed. 99. I heard that the destruction of the Blood Knife Gate is also inseparable from the Yanwang dynasty. What is the origin of this Yanwang dynasty? The power of the 5 products is not so fierce. Wenxin Academy merged into the Yanwang dynasty. When was this news? How did we not know? As soon as these words came out, the rest of the people immediately spoke. "How long have you been behind this news? But I knew about this matter before it was spread." Quote. "So, you are from the Yanwang dynasty, and you have a relationship within the official." And smart people guessed the key. Good. The man who spoke straightened his chest, very proud that he was a Yanwang person, and said, "I have relatives who work as errands in the Foreign Affairs Department of the Yanwang dynasty, and I knew the news almost on the same day. You guys wait." Immediately the entire dynasty, and even the entire southern part of the Lingzhou domain, will know this news. As the Yanwang dynasty announced to the world, Wenxin Academy soon followed suit with the news, saying that he would be a member of the Yanwang dynasty in the future and would be under the jurisdiction of the Yanwang dynasty. The academy serves the Terrans, and it is normal for them to bet on potential good forces. The news came out that even the matter of Zhang Yanyan of the Zhang family becoming the honorary president of Wenxin Academy was also announced. In this way, everyone knows that the relationship between the two forces is close. Soon someone found out Zhang Yanran's identity. It is said that this is a genius girl of the Zhang family, and at a young age, she is already a strong person in the Divine Mansion realm. No wonder, among the 6-rank forces, the strongest is the Divine Mansion True Monarch, and Zhang Yanran is already enough to be an elder-level figure. So, the Zhang family behind the Yanwang dynasty already has a strong person beyond the Divine Mansion realm. Otherwise, how could Wenxin Academy voluntarily submit? I heard that Zhang Chushuan, the ancestor of the Zhang family, lived thousands of years, but he looked like a young man and showed no signs of aging. Quote. Some discussions, as when Xin Academy became known to the world, became more and more outrageous. Zhang Chushuan is not even 70 years old, but he is rumored to be a 1,000-year-old monster. Perhaps this is the only way to make them feel reasonable. However, the only consensus of everyone is that the rise of the Yanwang dynasty is unstoppable. That is, I don't know how the remaining 6 rank strength will respond. There are still some 5 product forces. What kind of countermeasures will they make? While everyone was discussing enthusiastically, Zhang Chushuan had already set off with Wu Yanxi and Bai Tenor, preparing to go to a secret realm. In the shadows, there are also salamanders escorted by them. Although Zhang Chushuan didn't need it at all, she still brought the other party. Maybe there was some important news that she needed to deliver. Hey, worthy of being the reincarnation of the quasi-emperor, you are so powerful. Looking at Zhang Chushuan, Wu Yanxi sincerely admired. In such a short time, a powerful dynasty was established and unstoppable. Zhang Chushuan is worthy of being the reincarnation of a quasi-emperor. Maybe when she returns to the imperial clan in the future, she can use his power to help her sister solve some troubles. Some small things, not enough to worry about. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan just waved his hand and said casually, by the way, how far is the secret realm you mentioned? This time, it was Wu Yanxi who took the initiative to find Zhang Chushuan, saying that he knew a secret realm, and there were many good things in it. The reason why she is so positive is nothing more than wanting to find various heavenly treasures as soon as possible to help her speed up nirvana. A generation of Eucharists will never be satisfied with the improvement of strength. It's not far away, and it's almost time to cross a mountain range. A mountain range on the Xuantian continent stretches for thousands of miles, which can be described as extremely far, but it is nothing at all for the peak powerhouse of the Divine Mansion realm. Wu Yanxi looked a little excited, thinking that he might be able to find something for himself in this secret realm. I'm looking forward to it too. Wu Yanxi's beautiful eyes flashed. Her spirit has not yet been repaired, but being able to collect treasures is also a big hobby of hers. Zero asking for flowers. The 3 stopped talking and continued to hurry. Finally, after crossing the space several times, a beautiful view appeared on the plain in the mountains. Looking down from above, you can see the lakes dotted with grasslands. Sparkling in the sun, it is gorgeous. From time to time, birds fly through it, startling the swimming fish in the lake and causing waves. There are even some sounds made by fierce beasts in the mountains, which adds to the mystery. This is what I found with my sister back then. I haven't been here for so many years, it's still as beautiful as ever. Looking at the scenery in front of him, Wu Yanxi's eyes flashed with remembrance, and then flew forward. Wu Yanxi on the side also looked moved when he saw this. She was not shocked along the way, but looking at the beautiful scenery, her eyes couldn't help but light up. Zhang Chushuan followed Wu Yanxi's footsteps, looked around, and found that there was no threat, so he was slightly relieved. The 3 fell from the sky and walked on the grass between the lakes. Wu Yanxi did not forget to add, I feel that there is something strange in this place. The law is that in addition to people, the rest of the creatures can fly into the sky. That's right, we can only walk next. Zhang Chushuan bowed his head. It's okay, just enjoy the view here. Wu Yanxi smiled. Xiaobai, walk around, I can't wait. 99. Wu Yanxi pulled up Bai Tenor and ran forward with her body. Seeing this, Zhang Chushuan followed helplessly behind. When the 3 of them crossed several lakes, they startled many of the demon beasts that inhabited them, but their strength was not high, and they were solved by Zhang Chushuan 3 or 2 times, like a flower protection messenger. Finally, they stopped in front of a mountain forest. This place is full of life, and all kinds of insects are constantly heard. Wu Yanxi seemed to have returned to her home, and walked towards it with a light car. There are some good things in there, we can collect them later. Bai Tenor glanced at Wu Yanxi. I'm not going to be polite. Wu Yanxi smiled cheekily. Walking through the forest, the trio finally stopped in an open space. There was no way ahead, so Bai Tenor took a look at the spot and led them to the side. Following the mountain, the 3 of them gradually went deeper and came to the middle of the cliff. Looking from here to the opposite side, there are dense holes, and many figures fly in and out, which is very annoying. Pointing to the opposite side, Wu Yanxi said, that's it. Back then, we found this place because there was a demon beast containing the bloodline of a phoenix living inside. Sky Swallower. River. 77%. Chapter 304. Phoenix Bloodline. Egg thief. Subscription required. Sky-swallowing sparrows are naturally small. Don't look at their small one. When they become adults, they will burst out of the strength of the Jaden realm. Baitanur glanced at Zhang Chushuan a few times and saw that he did not have any special reaction, so he continued, although the Jaden realm is like ants to us, they do not rely on their own individual combat strength, but the entire race. 5. If there is a divine mansion realm heaven-devouring sparrow leading, once it is targeted by a group of sky-devouring sparrows, even a Saint Lord-level powerhouse will not be able to resist. Therefore, few cultivators are willing to mess with such a group of guys. Of course, there is no reason why I don't know the existence of the sky-swallowing sparrow. After all, this is a group of demon beasts that have never appeared in the world. On the side, Wu Yanxi was a little curious. It stands to reason that this location should be easy to find. Why hasn't it been discovered? 55. Naturally, it's because my sister did it. Baitanur smiled slightly and said, except for us, no one in this place knows. 377. And with the natural large array arranged in this mountain range, even the king can't see anything, and the existence above the king can't see this. Listening to her say this, Zhang Chushuan understood in Wu Yanxi. No wonder before arriving, Baitanur took them around the neighborhood for a long time. Okay, let's go. Not far in front of them, there was a huge old uncle, standing on it. Although the ancient tree is horizontal, it still has life, and its branches grow from both sides, leaving a path in the middle. There are also many footprints and the corpses of some demon beasts on it, emitting a rancid smell. Covering his nose and walking on it, Baitanur frowned slightly. These monster beasts will come here every once in a while to steal the eggs of the sky-devouring sparrow. Quote. After all, for them, the phoenix bloodline in these eggs is a fatal attraction. 35. Although in 1,000 eggs, there may not be a single sky-devouring sparrow with phoenix bloodline. Baitanur is very familiar with this place, and obviously came many times and constantly introduced the two. But in fact, Zhang Chushuan knows a lot through Chu Yun's life trajectory. After a long trek, Baitanur waved his hand and whispered to the two people behind him, hide the breath, don't be discovered by them, otherwise you will be attacked by the group. With the strength of Zhang Chushuan, it can completely destroy the sky-devouring sparrow. But the purpose of their trip is not to destroy, but to make a fortune. The two looked up just in time to see the sky-devouring sparrow flying over and returning to one of the lairs. When the sky-devouring sparrow flew overhead, Baitanur breathed a sigh of relief and turned to the two people. Rest here for the night first, and then we will act tomorrow morning. 35. Zhang Chushuan and Wu Yanxi already knew what Baitanur wanted to do, and at the same time, they were also very curious in their hearts about what was the difference between this heaven-devouring sparrow that contained the bloodline of the phoenix. Especially Zhang Chushuan, if he can get the egg, with a 100-fold reward system, the number of sky-devouring sparrows with the phoenix bloodline can be greatly increased, and it is not a problem to create a powerful army of demon beasts. Why not act now? Wu Yanxi couldn't wait to ask, whispering. This is the special habit of the sky-devouring sparrow here. Baitanur said with a little pride. My sister and I spent a lot of time to find out. They're returning to the nest now, and they're full of adult sky-swallowing finches, so there's no need to mess with them. 35. In terms of protecting the heirs, even if they know that they are not our opponents, they will fight desperately. In the morning, all the sky eaters will go out in search of food, and only the strongest extreme sky eaters, young birds and eggs will be left in the nest, and that's when we act. Wu Yanxi understood and nodded slightly. After all, in the years when she was growing up, she had never done such a thing, so she didn't know that there was such a thing. The three of them were almost on top of the old tree, surrounded by lush foliage, and they simply arranged a few heads and tails, and after the combination of virtual and real blocked the surroundings, it was easy to block the sight of the sky-devouring sparrow. One night without words. Wah! It was just dawn the next day. The three of them were alarmed by the mighty sound of all the sky-devouring sparrows going out together. After waiting for half an hour, the last adult heaven-devouring sparrow left only 3 divine mansion realm sky-swallowing sparrows to guard the house. Zhang Chushuan and the 3 of them slowly appeared at this time. When I first came, there were only a few hundred. But over the years, who knew that they reproduced so quickly, and the caves in the cliffs were expanded several times. It seems that the previous decision was correct. Baitanur said with a cold face. Indeed. Zhang Chushuan nodded and agreed. If you can take it all away and cultivate it in a secret realm or a special place, it can greatly increase the Yanwang heritage. Zhang Chushuan's eyes flashed slightly. If it is a 100-fold increase, this background is afraid that the power of the 5 products will also be shocked. So what do we do next? Wu Yanxi asked curiously. With our strength, those 3 sky-devouring sparrows are not opponents, but they will inevitably appear. Let's see if we can fool them first. 0 inches. Bai Tenor mused. Collect the feathers of the sky-devouring sparrow first, and then mix it in. This is the trick she discovered with her sister. Even the divine mansion realm heaven-devouring sparrow can't find it, and it is very weak in terms of perception. Without saying that, Bai Tenor took the lead and jumped to the edge of the opposite cliff, looking for feathers that fell sporadically in some places. Zhang Chushuan casually picked up a feather and observed it, and found that it contained some light spiritual energy. This feather is very light and has almost no weight in the hand. It didn't take long for the 3 of them to collect enough feathers and start weaving them by Bai Tenor herself. Soon, 2 feathered spirit clothes and a feather cloak appeared. After putting on the feather spirit clothes and depicting a few simple formations in some of them, Wu Yanxi turned around and smiled at the 2. How is it? Does it look good? Bai Tenor smiled and nodded slightly. The 3 of them were finally all ready and slowly headed towards the cave on the cliff. Although the Sky Eater is said to live in groups, it also has its own nest in a huge cave. However, after the 3 of them entered the cave, they immediately attracted a huge lair large enough to hold several football fields, and walked straight away. Along the way, from time to time, young birds poked their heads out to check, but after sensing the familiar breath, they ignored it. Along the way, the 3 of them finally came here. When you look outside, it's a huge lair. There are nests within the nests, but the further you go, the sparser these nests become, and the greater the distance between them. The 3 of them did not look at the outermost 4.4 nest and went straight to the deepest. The more the sky-devouring sparrow inside, the more phoenix bloodline it has. So you can become the king of the group. Hopefully they will leave a few eggs for us to take away. It stands to reason that the further you go inside, the more the air inside is blocked. But Zhang Chushuan did not smell the bad smell left by these sky-swallowing sparrows after life. On the contrary, there was a gust of majestic wind, which was very comfortable. Walking a little inside, with his eyesight, Zhang Chushuan had already noticed that some of the pale cyan eggs were lying steadily in the nest. There are also 1 or 3 young birds playing nearby. What a cute little guy. 35. Decided, I will take you away and help your parents relieve the pressure. Wu Yanxi's eyes lit up. But what he said left Zhang Chushuan speechless. Do you think sky-swallowing sparrow has mortgage car loan pressure? 77%. Chapter 305 Thieves and Demon Beasts, fighting bloody battles between the 2 sides, affecting the pond fish. Bai Tenor's movements were very gentle. It seemed that the fire phoenix nirvana holy body worked, and the heaven-devouring sparrow bird gradually calmed down under her appeasement. Carefully taking out the eggs laid by the young bird, Bai Tenor quickly returned to Zhang Chushuan and the 2. Worthy of the Holy Eucharist, the attraction to this little guy is afraid to surpass his parents. 35 Zhang Chushuan said with some sigh. Seeing this, he smiled helplessly. He continued towards the depths of the nest. Although there are fewer and fewer young birds inside, almost every nest has the presence of sky-swallowing eggs. Suddenly, Zhang Chushuan's eyes were attracted by a pale cyan egg with some patterns on the shell. Step out, the power of space. Zhang Chushuan stepped forward and reached out to touch it. There were no young birds in this nest, and it was more than a dozen feet away from other nests, so Zhang Chushuan was not blocked. Seeing this, Bai Tenor on the side had a look of excitement on her always calm face, and couldn't help but lower her voice and said to Zhang Chushuan, this egg must contain the bloodline of a phoenix, and it may have mutated, and we are not bad luck. Zhang Chushuan nodded slightly, a white light flashed on his palm, and the cyan egg disappeared. The 3 of them searched carefully in the nest for a while, and finally only Yun Xuanjian got a lighter cyan egg, and then they were ready to leave. 1. Boom. Suddenly, there was a vibration from the outside world, and the 3 of them looked at each other, and on the ancient tree they came over, there seemed to be many demon beasts rushing towards this place. Let's go, it's a thief and demon beast. The thief monster beast is not the kind of thief who steals the monster beast, but a special monster beast that steals the heirs of other monster beasts for food, which is notorious in the monster beast world. Every time a thief and monster beast appears, a monster war will always break out. Bai Tenor observed for a moment, and suddenly her complexion changed greatly. This is a monster beast that came to steal eggs. They don't care who you are. Wherever they pass, they will destroy what they can directly. Those sky-devouring sparrows will also fight for their lives when they find out about the situation. The three of them may be able to cope, but it is clearly not in line with the interests. The original road can't go, we go straight down the cliff. Zhang Chushuan made a quick decision, took Wu Yanxi and Bai Ten'er to turn around, crossed one protruding rock after another, and was about to go away. In today's plot, he has seen Chu Yun's rules, and he has faintly guessed. At this time, if you fly in the air, it will definitely attract the attention of the monster beast, and it will be even more difficult to get rid of. The sky suddenly became dark, and Zhang Chushuan looked up slightly, and saw countless adult sky-devouring sparrows, returning to the nest quickly. They let out a sharp warning sound, trying to drive away these thieves. But the monster beast has passed most of this time, and it is about to reach the lair on this side of the cliff. How can it give up? So they picked up speed, and the old tree seemed to be crumbling and about to break. Fortunately, it was tough enough to safely let the monster rush over. Seeing this, the adult sky-devouring sparrows hovering above raised their heads one after another, protruding a faint white mist from their mouths. At the same time, they waved their wings, and immediately a strong wind arose, roaring towards the monster beast. Soon, dozens of tornadoes formed on the edge of the cliff, and the number is increasing. The tornado roared and swept the monster into it, and then fell into the bottom of the cliff. Before there was a howl, some demon beasts disappeared. Not far away, Zhang Chushuan and the three were still trying their best to stay away from the battlefield. The war between the beasts is not something that the three of them can resist. Woo! Suddenly, a slightly larger sky-swallowing sparrow in the sky seemed to have found the traces of the three of them, and after screaming, hundreds of sky-swallowing sparrows immediately swooped towards them. You don't have a restaurant, let's go quickly. Zhang Chushuan released a powerful aura, shrunk into inches, and walked with the two women in the air. The battle on the edge of the cliff continues, but it is basically a one-sided situation, and the monsters are falling. Even if a demon beast came to the sky-devouring sparrow's lair by chance, it was also driven away by the adult sky-swallowing sparrow who rushed back in time. The ground is messy feathers, and scarlet blood, and the two sides do not give in to each other, as if they want to divide you from death and me. Roar! It seemed that he couldn't bear such a loss, and among the monster beasts, a huge monster beast like a small mountain suddenly roared to the sky. Seeing this, the rest of the demon beasts retreated one after another, wanting to leave. But how could the enraged sky-devouring sparrow let the other party go? They protrude more pale white mist from their mouths and wave their wings more frequently. Almost instantly, the tornado formed rapidly, and then swallowed the tornado next to it, getting bigger and bigger. Under the control of the sky-devouring sparrows, the tornado swept towards the fierce beast. Now more monsters were swept into the air and then fell quickly. Zhang Chushuan, who was running quickly, saw that hundreds of sky-devouring sparrows behind him were still chasing, and he was about to start killing. But he was stopped by Bai Ten'er. Don't make a move, otherwise they will remember that wherever they go, they will follow until they are killed by you, or kill you. No need. But as long as we escape to the forest and return to the place where we first came in, the Sky Eater will return, and then we will be safe. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan pondered for a moment, but decided to do what Bai Ten'er said. During the pursuit, the sky-devouring sparrow made a sharp cry from time to time and flew out from under its wings. Feathers pointed at the backs of Zhang Chushuan. Fortunately, they are all strong and can easily dodge. Almost there, we're almost there. Seeing that the edge of the forest was ahead, Bai Ten'er was overjoyed in her heart, and hurriedly said to the two, "Hurry up, we will be safe. In the future, as long as they do not enter their territory for a short time, they will not find us." 383 inches. Zhang Chushuan and Yun Xuanjian were silent and followed Bai Ten'er. At this moment, a loud cry came from the direction of the sky-swallowing nest, and the sky-swallowing sparrows that pursued Zhang Chushuan and the three, after hearing it, did not hesitate and returned directly. By this time, the three Zhang Chushuan had returned to the edge of the lake. Seeing this, Bai Ten'er smiled at this time, gasped heavily, and at the same time absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy to replenish herself. Okay, we are safe. Bai Ten'er, you brought us here just to steal eggs, right? Oh, of course not. By the heaven-devouring nest, the demon beast has retreated embarrassedly. Both sides had a lot of losses, but the monster beasts were more serious. Less than a third of the monster beasts escaped, and the rest fell directly off the cliff. However, the sky-devouring sparrow's side is also uncomfortable. In addition to feathers and blood stains all over the ground, egg whites and yolks from broken eggshells even flow out of some nests. Some of them already have the rudiments of young birds, but they still haven't escaped the clutches of the monsters. In the deepest part of the nest, the corpses of more than a dozen adult sky-swallowing sparrows are placed, and at the front stands a particularly majestic sky-swallowing sparrow. It is the king of the tribe, and any sky devourer can only bow down in front of it. When the last few hundred sky-devouring sparrows returned, the king made different calls and seemed to be admonishing. 77%. Chapter 300 600-fold reward, the name of the gale. Soon, the rest of the sky-devouring sparrows became restless, flapping their wings, and screaming all over the place. But after the sky-devouring sparrow king made a sound, they immediately quieted down again. After a full hour, the sky-devouring sparrow king turned his back to the wreckage, making a sound that seemed to be a whimper. The rest of the sky devourers lowered their heads and slowly moved towards the wreckage. The next moment, more than a dozen sky-devouring sparrows picked up the corpses of their companions and flew towards the abyss below the cliff. The rest of the sky-eaters returned to their nests or set out again in search of food for their young. The sky-devouring sparrow king came to his exclusive lair at this time and was silent. Its nest is 30 feet above the ground, made of countless ancient tree branches, inlaid with spiritual grass and flowers, as if a fresh breeze escapes from it. But at the moment, it has no interest. In the end, a tear fell from the corner of the sky-devouring king's eye, and he let out a sad wail. The rest of the sky devourers poked their heads out of their nests and bowed their heads towards the king. By the lake, Baitaner is cleaning some debris on his body and driving away the breath of the sky-swallowing sparrow on his body. Zhang Chushuan placed the pale cyan sky-devouring sparrow egg into his carry-on space. Ding! In an instant, the system prompt sound came, and the corners of Zhang Chushuan's mouth suddenly turned up, knowing that his guess had come true. If you find the spirit stone devouring egg, you can choose the following rewards to double after consumption. 99. 1. Sky swallowing sparrow, heavenly rank grade spirit beast, not hatched, x 100. 2. Gale phoenix top saint lord level saint beast, not hatched, x 10. 3. Qingluan quasi-king beast, unhatched, x1. A smile broke out on Zhang Chushuan's face. He originally thought that Baitaner said that the sky-swallowing sparrow contained the blood of a phoenix was just a joke, thinking that this sky-swallowing sparrow only had a trace of wind attributes. But now it seems that she is right. After the improvement of the hundredfold system, the bloodline power of the sky-devouring sparrow was put countless times. Zhang Chushuan knows that there are enough opportunities in the future, and he will eventually be able to transform into a phoenix. It was a legendary holy beast. Although it is only at the Saint Lord level, it should not be underestimated. Usually, when one appears, it is coaxed by countless people, and even the peerless experts who have never appeared, those proud people in the Holy Land, may also snatch it. And now, he will give birth to one in his hand, which can be described as great luck. However, after some thought, Zhang Chushuan gave up his plan to directly exchange the Wind Phoenix Divine Beast egg. As far as the quasi-king beast is concerned, it is difficult to hatch and cannot keep up. Do you want a strong wind, or a sky-devouring sparrow with pure blood? Zhang Chushuan himself does not need these spirit beasts, but it does not mean that the Zhang family does not need them, and it does not mean that the people of the Yanwang dynasty do not need them. With these 100 sky-swallowing sparrows, he can completely form a flying elite, that is, the Air Force before the crossing. At that time, it will be possible to launch an all-round attack on the enemy with minimal consumption of resources. But Gale is also a legendary mythical beast. Although it is only one of the 9 sons of the Phoenix, it is mighty and mighty when it beats its wings. Gale Phoenix is similar in shape to dogs, but has a human face. Once it meets a human, it laughs. But it is also a fierce bird, and with easy flapping of its wings, it can uproot large trees. Destroying countless houses. The wind is extremely fast and moves like the wind, so legends say that few people encounter strong winds and have the power to resist. Although there are only 10, they can also be rewarded to the senior generals of the Zhang family or the Yanwang dynasty, encouraging them to continue to make contributions to the Zhang family and the Yanwang dynasty. Thinking of this, Wang Yifan muttered to himself, and already had a choice. It's better to choose the reward of Gale, although the number is small, but it is also elite. As for the heaven-devouring sparrow, it can form a certain scale through them and other spirit beasts to produce offspring. It's really not possible. Wait for me to break through the Holy Lord, and come here to pack up and take all this away. Making up his mind, Zhang Chushuan said to the system without hesitation, "System, I choose the second reward." 35. Almost instantly, in the corner of Wang Yifan's carry-on system space, there were 10 more eggs. These eggs were almost the size of a football, cyan in color, with more patterns than the sky-devouring sparrow eggs he had got, and there were streamers flashing on them from time to time, which was very strange. After observing for a while, Zhang Chushuan retracted his thoughts, and the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. Zhang Chushuan, what are you laughing at? Bai Tenor suddenly spoke, startling Zhang Chushuan. Too suddenly. Ah, nothing. Didn't you just get the mutated heaven-swallowing egg of the phoenix bloodline contained in your body, thinking that I could cultivate a powerful spirit beast for the dynasty in the future, and I was happy? Zhang Chushuan regretted that he had rewarded 100-fold too quickly, and it was not good to take out the sky-devouring sparrow egg again. Fortunately, Bai Tenor did not ask for the bottom line. It's really worth being happy. I also got one, although it's not as good as yours, but the wind helps the fire, cultivates well, presumably it's not much worse, and it can help me. Well, you're right. Zhang Chushuan nodded cooperatively. Indicated in the heart. You're far behind. Cut. Wu Yanxi listened to the two squatting together, a little sullen. Although she also got several heaven-swallowing sparrow eggs in the end, they were not as good as Zhang Chushuan and the two. As a treasure seeker, this is too tortuous. Damn, next time I must shoot faster. Bai Tenor pouted slightly, trying to keep her eyes far away so as not to make herself sad. But the more she thought about it, the more angry she became, and she couldn't recognize Bai Tenor and asked, Bai Tenor, where are we going next? Very good, not called Tenor again. Bai Tenor gave her an angry look, but still said, come with me, the sky-swallowing sparrow is just an appetizer. But the treasure I encountered this time, I have to choose first. I don't care. Zhang Chushuan shrugged. It's a really good thing. It's a big deal to borrow it and increase it. I can have 99 of them. The reincarnation of the quasi-emperor is indeed rich. Bai Tenor glanced at Zhang Chushuan, but his mood was a little better, and he stepped ahead to lead the way. On the way, Bai Tenor told the two from time to time some information about the destination and told them what to pay attention to. Sometimes, you don't have enough strength to do whatever you want. What they are going to this time is the mountain range on the side of the many good money Jiao Xinglo lakes. There is a meteorite trail in the valley with gravity. Just walk through this valley and you will reach a real treasure land. But Zhang Chushuan didn't need to think about it to know that there must be a test hidden in this path, and only those who pass the test could be allowed to pass. Here it is, this is it. After more than an hour of trekking, they finally came to the mountain. Hey, someone seems to have been here before. When he saw that there were some traces of weeds being clearly trampled in front of the valley, Bai Tenor's face immediately turned ugly. She had thought that this place was covered up and only she knew about it, but now it seems that this is not the case. Seeing her stop, Wu Yanxi behind her took the initiative to step forward and said with concern, what's wrong? Isn't it here? It's here, Bai Tenor said in a serious voice, but someone has already taken the lead. What the island? Wu Yanxi was angry. Can it be like this yesterday? 77%. Chapter 307 Sumi Illusion Realm, Ice and Fire Two Heavens. Subscription required. Don't worry, we still have a chance. Bai Tenor spoke out to appease Wu Yanxi and said, let's not say that it is difficult for them to pass the test, even if they are lucky to pass the test, it is the most difficult. 5. Still in the place where the treasure is finally located, it seems that they will not go in for more than a day, and we may catch up. 99. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan's heart immediately moved. At this time, it seems that someone is following them. But when they came, they were cautious enough, how could they be followed without them noticing? Zhang Chushuan, let's go too. When Zhang Chushuan was still thinking, Bai Tenor's voice came, and he nodded slightly, good. The three of them walked into the valley one after another, and the space seemed to fluctuate for a while. Zhang Chushuan looked back, but found that the other two women were all missing. Almost as soon as they entered, Zhang Chushuan's environment changed drastically, no longer a lush valley, but a frozen ice and snow plain. Phantom array. I don't know what will happen. The ice and snow plains are endless, and there are no living creatures in sight. Zhang Chushuan just got used to the temperature and walked forward. He was not worried about the safety of Yun Xuanjian and the two daughters, they both had enough means to protect themselves. When the illusion array is broken, they will meet each other. Suddenly, the snowfield in front of him began to squirm, and one after another, demon beasts condensed by ice and snow 387 appeared one after another, blocking in front of Zhang Chushuan. This is the test. Zhang Chushuan frowned slightly. These demon beasts are basically under the divine mansion realm, and they pose no threat to him. Too simple, or is it tricky? But let's go out first. Zhang Chushuan didn't say a word. One step out, the space flowed, and the whole person shot out like a stream of light. Die. A punch smashed the ice wolf in front of him. With a flick of the left foot, the ability fluctuation spread out and swept around. Countless ice bears immediately burst open and turned into snowflakes. Zhang Chushuan's whole person is like walking in the snow, constantly moving forward, and the speed is unchanged. Every puncher can easily solve the monster beast in front of you, and it actually has some unique beauty after turning into snowflakes. After tirelessly hunting hundreds of ice and snow demon beasts, Zhang Chushuan discovered something wrong. Every time you kill an ice demon beast, you will respawn one not far away, maintaining its original number. With the power of special rules, similar to the means of blood rebirth. Can't find the broken array fat, will you be consumed alive here? Zhang Chushuan's eyes wandered, and Zhang Chushuan stopped playing. In the rapid flashing of his figure, a tidal wave of ability appeared, and the ice and snow demon beasts that passed burst open. Solve the ice and snow demon beast in one breath, and the scenery in front of you changes again. In the scorching sun, the earth is scorched and cracked, and the void is distorted. Zhang Chushuan immediately felt a burst of heat rushing towards him, and the shoes under his feet were moisturizing and about to burn. Ice and fire. Tisk. The corners of Zhang Chushuan's mouth curved and walked across the earth. When he raised his head and looked into the air, he suddenly found that there were 9 scorching suns hanging in the air, making this place look lonely in front of him. Ideographic period. After trying to cross tens of thousands of Zhang Chushuan raised his head again and found that the 9 suns followed each other, and the distance did not change in the slightest. Big light bulbs are kind of interesting. 35. Zhang Chushuan's eyes narrowed slightly, and he suddenly drew his knife and swung towards the sun. Boom. The sky-breaking sword intent was wrapped in infinite sword chi and rushed to the sky. The Chenjiang Dao Qi traveled through space and slashed at one of the suns almost instantly. The sun burst open in an instant, falling from the sky, and the fire spread rapidly, blowing up the entire large place and turning it into lava. Now, although there is one less sun, the surroundings are even hotter. Zhang Chushuan's face remained unchanged and he continued to move towards the remaining 8 suns in the sky. Boom. Finally, when there was only one sun left in the sky, the earth was already in a sea of fire and began to tremble violently. But Zhang Chushuan remained in place, seemingly waiting for something. Click. There was a cracking sound in his ears, and Zhang Chushuan's eyes changed again, and he saw the verdant valley in front of him. Beside him, Wu Yanxi and Bai Ten'er closed their eyes, obviously still in the illusion. Zhang Chushuan sat down in place and acted as a protector for the two. This kind of test will not be difficult for the 2 women, but will become their experience. Ideographic period. Half a quarter of an hour later, Bai Ten'er and Wu Yanxi opened their eyes almost at the same time, and after looking at each other, they both looked at Zhang Chushuan. Sensing his gaze, Zhang Chushuan smiled at the two. Let's go, keep hurrying. Aha. 35. The 3 of them traveled together. In less than a moment, Bai Ten'er finally couldn't bear the curiosity in her heart, and asked, what did you all see in the illusion? I seem to see my sister. She's suffering. Bai Ten'er said, tears almost falling. After her sister gave birth to Chu Yun, she experienced hardships and gave her body. 15. On the side, Wu Yanxi rarely showed a calm side, patted the other party's jade back, and said softly, I saw the picture of being killed that day. That scoundrel really saddens me. 35. As these words fell, the mood of the 2 women fell to the extreme. But they are all resolute people, and after a few breaths, they returned to normal. Otherwise, it would be impossible to break the illusion array. Seeing the 2 women looking towards him, Zhang Chushuan said helplessly, I have encountered 2 illusions, let's count them too. 99. Upon hearing this, the 2 women looked at each other, and they both saw surprise in each other's eyes. The first time I saw was an ice and snow plane, in which there were many monsters transformed into ice and snow, but they were all killed by me. The second time was on the Emperor of the 9 days of the sky, and finally destroyed 8 of the suns, and I came out. You, worthy of being the reincarnation of a quasi-emperor. When Bai Ten'er heard this, she immediately opened her mouth wide, a little incredulous. She originally thought that everyone saw the heaviest thing in her heart, but the reality is not like this. Zhang Chushuan seems to be playing. And the phantom array test represents the quality of subsequent rewards. 2. Cheating. Okay, let's go ahead and try to catch up with the uninvited guest. Zhang Chushuan did not comfort the two daughters. After all, it is the scars in their hearts, which cannot be solved in a few words. The atmosphere was a little silent for a while, but fortunately, they saw the uninvited guests in front of them soon after. The other party was dressed in a unified white robe and wore a crown, which seemed to come from the same force. But at this time, their situation is not very good. There were 5 people in total, and basically everyone had injuries on their bodies. And the 5 of them were scattered in various positions in front of them, sweating, almost exhausting their strength with each step, as if they were under some kind of great pressure and limited in movement. Boss, someone is coming. The last person who fell was the first to reach the breath of Zhang Chushuan, and hurriedly said to a man at the front. The man slowly turned his head. Zhang Chushuan and the 3 could see each other's faces. The sword eyebrows are starry, the bridge of the nose is high, and the lips are slightly upturned, just right. If it weren't for the vertical scars on half of his face, he would definitely be able to be called rich and handsome, and fascinate thousands of girls. The boss glanced at Zhang Chushuan a few times, then turned back again. Ignore them, let's move on. It's almost out. Yes, boss. The rest of the people were a little jealous of Zhang Chushuan, but the boss spoke, they had to comply, and continued to grit their teeth and insist. Although the front is still in the valley, the ground is still full of lush vegetation, but they are walking with great difficulty. Some even have a bit of a strain to lift their feet. The eyes of the 3 Zhang Chushuan were slightly condensed. Is this another test? 78%. Chapter 308 Saint Coercion, Narrow Road Encounter. Baitaner showed a strange look. The road ahead does not seem to be a problem. But why are those few people walking so hard? Gravity formation. It doesn't look like it. The Zhang family has long regarded the gravity formation as a daily project, and Baitaner is also very familiar. Zhang Chushuan just glanced at it and said to the 2 women beside him, let's go too. 5. Aha, The 3 of them had just taken 5 steps, and they felt a great pressure reward, which swept in an instant. Baitaner and Wu Yanxi tried to use spiritual power, but they couldn't use any strength, and their feet seemed to take root, as if they were welded. Zhang Chushuan's power to move space is a little better than them, but it is also very difficult and slow. The 3 looked at each other and finally understood why the 5 walked so slowly. This kind of pressure is the coercion of saints. If it weren't for the strength of one of them, one was the King Divine Soul, and the other was the Holy Body, I was afraid that they would kneel directly to the ground. Ha ha ha, boss, they actually came in directly and laughed me to death. The last guy had been paying attention to the situation behind him, and when he saw Zhang Chushuan's slightly clumsy movements, he immediately laughed. The other 4 also had unstoppable smiles on their faces, but not as exaggerated as the guy. Zhang Chushuan's face did not change, and he calmed down a little and thought carefully. At the same time, he kept moving to the side, trying to find the secret. After all, looking at the appearance of the 5 of them, it seems that only their boss has found a way, and the rest of them are following behind them. There must be a place where movement is free, but it has not yet been found. Boom, one by one. Zhang Chushuan's left foot had just taken a step forward, and an even greater pressure crashed down, and he originally wanted to retract his left foot, but it was just useless. After a little contemplation, Zhang Chushuan's right foot retreated slightly, but it was somewhat different from its original position. But just like just now, it was very stressful and difficult to move. The 2 women behind him seemed to be more in his eyes than him, and they couldn't move at this time. Zhang Chushuan didn't care too much and continued to fumble. A quarter of an hour later, Zhang Chushuan found some regularity with his own perseverance, but his back was completely soaked with sweat. The majesty of the saint. The pressure on ordinary people is too great. Every step he takes, he has to consume a huge amount of strength, and at the same time absorb the surrounding spiritual energy to replenish it. In a real quarter of an hour, he moved less than a meter away. Here, it should be facing this way. Zhang Chushuan raised his left foot, stayed in the air for a while, and then stepped directly forward and stepped on the flourishing spirit grass. But what brought Zhang Chushuan this time was a completely different feeling. Almost the entire left leg was unsealed, very easily. He moved carefully, and suddenly, the pressure hit quickly, but not very much. At this time, the corners of Zhang Chushuan's mouth were slightly upturned, and he put his left foot back in place, and his right foot was placed towards the next place. Sure enough, this time there was still no pressure, and Zhang Chushuan could even jump on the spot without being hindered by anything. Zhang Chushuan, who had already figured out the secret, took more than a dozen steps in succession, and was about to catch up with the last person in front of him in the blink of an eye. How is that possible? The man's face was full of disbelief. It took him more than a day to get here, and this is still under the leadership of their boss, otherwise he would not be able to step out in one step. But the young man in front of him actually walked not far behind him in less than half an hour, which is really amazing. With a faint smile on his face, Zhang Chushuan said to the two women who were struggling behind him, "Follow my spatial traces. If it doesn't work, you guys first find a way to go out and wait for me outside." This is a special coercive formation. Walking right and stepping out of the coercion doubled. Zhang Chushuan can actually run amok by devouring holy runes, but he doesn't want to. When the words fell, Zhang Chushuan continued to walk forward, like a leisurely walk. Bai Tenor and Wu Yanxi looked at each other and groped according to the traces of space left by Zhang Chushuan. The formation is really changing. Follow directly, and the end will be very miserable. But with the experience of the past, the two women quickly figured out a way. It took about a quarter of an hour for the two women to reach where Zhang Chushuan had been. At this point, the pressure exerted on the body is close to disappearing. Wu Yanxi's face was happy, and he said to Bai Tenor behind him, "Tenor, it's hard for us to stop here." 35. With Zhang Chushuan here, we just have to keep up. Bai Tenor was very indifferent, and at the same time turned the direction and followed behind Wu Yanxi. At the same time, Zhang Chushuan had already walked to the rear of the third person, just one step away from the second. The faces of the group of 5 people were extremely ugly, especially the boss at the front, looking at Zhang Chushuan's eyes, faintly jealous. He used a treasure to calculate some of the techniques of this place, and he also discovered this place with the help of that treasure. But Zhang Chushuan just thinks for a moment and knows what to do next, which is strange. Please let it be. 0 asking for flowers. Zhang Chushuan was about to step out, but found that the next position had been blocked by a second person. That's the only place to stay. It may change next, but it will take time. Let me. The second person sneered, not only did not give in, but looked proud. You have the ability, step on me, I will not take the initiative to let you. Oh, hearing this, Zhang Chushuan stepped out. The next moment, he had already come to the man's head and stepped on it directly. It's the first time I've heard of such an interesting request. Zhang Chushuan sighed in fact. The next day, I was very angry, but I felt that my whole body could not move, and invisible pressure came from Zhang Chushuan's feet. Although he wanted to kill Zhang Chushuan, he could only dry his eyes. Still have killing intent on me. Zhang Chushuan is very sensitive to breath, and his brows are slightly raised. 0. You can't kill people here, I'll collect some interest first. Zhang Chushuan stepped out in one step, surpassing the next day, while removing the spatial ring from his hand. The second person was shocked. Zhang Chushuan is so relaxed. Here he had difficulty even walking. But this man can still fly. You can also take your own things with you. On the basis of what? Zhang Chushuan did not talk nonsense with him and continued to walk forward. Behind him, Bai Tenor and Wu Yanxi had fully comprehended the mystery and followed one after another, approaching the third person. But at this time, Zhang Chushuan stopped not far away, and there was still a distance of several feet from the second person. Glancing at the two women behind him, he saw that they were still chasing him, so he opened his mouth and ordered, "You can rest first, I still need some time." The two women, who knew that Zhang Chushuan had encountered a problem, nodded slightly, and after some distance from the two people in front of them, they stopped. It seems that there is more than one law in this. I just don't know if this changes over time or with distance. But I think it's unlikely that it will change with time. After all, I've only been gone for a few minutes, and it can't be so fast. Thinking of the experiences of those 5 people and their own feelings along the way, Zhang Chushuan determined the reason in his heart, and continued to look for the next place to stay according to the previous method. The boss saw Zhang Chushuan's performance the most, and then suddenly took the initiative to speak. Every 10 Zhang, the law here will change somewhat. It took me an hour or 2 to untie it. I just don't know how long you, this Taoist, will use. Chuan. 78%. Chapter 309 My woman. Claimed sovereignty. How about we make a bet? Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan was not in a hurry, but smiled at the other party. For a time, the other party was interested by Zhang Chushuan. He had been staggering in place for several hours anyway, otherwise Zhang Chushuan would not have caught up with them. He couldn't solve the secret for a while, and he wasn't in a hurry. Oh, what do you want to bet on? Raising the storage ring he snatched in his hand, Zhang Chushuan said, we bet who can leave here first. If you win, I'll give you the storage ring back. But if you lose, give your storage ring to both hands, how? Hee, Taoist friends are really good calculations. If he moves freely now, the boss can't help but applaud Zhang Chushuan. I win, you have nothing to lose. I lost, but, 393, you earned 2 storage rings in a row, such a good deal. When he is a fool. Zhang Chushuan saw through the man's thoughts, and couldn't help but smile. This is my trophy, naturally it can be regarded as a personal item, speaking of which, the two of us are similar, it depends on whose items in the storage ring are more valuable. Hello, don't face. When Zhang Chushuan spoke, he seemed to deliberately amplify his voice so that everyone present could hear it. The guy who was taken away from the storage ring suddenly blushed angrily when he heard it. That's my thing, you actually. Okay, as long as your boss wins. Nature is still yours. Of course, if he doesn't return it to you, I don't know. Seeing Zhang Chushuan acting like this, the third person was very angry. Boss, you must win, this bet with him is decided. Shut up. When will it be your turn to make a decision for me? The boss's angry shouts made the third person shudder and hurriedly shut up. Zhang Chushuan arched his hand slightly, and he said, in the lower Day dynasty Su Yu, these are brothers who follow me. I wonder where Yu is from. Oh, Day dynasty. Zhang Chushuan did not answer rhetorical questions. Especially after hearing the Su family, a mysterious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In that case, then I have to change the bet agreement, I just don't know, do you dare to agree? This Su Yu, that is, the boss of the group, heard this, felt that Zhang Chushuan was a little afraid in his heart after hearing that he was from the Su family, so he nodded and agreed, okay, Taoist friends, please speak. You win are the same as just now, but if you lose, not only you, but also the other 3 storage rings, will have to be handed over, how? Su Yu seemed to be a little disbelieving in his eyes. Dao Yu, are you kidding? Do you think I'm joking? With a solemn, Zhang Chushuan spoke, how is it? Do you dare to agree? Oh yes, I'm in a good mood today, and if you win, I can tell you how the other 4 companions go. 35. Upon hearing this, Su Yu thought quickly, and finally nodded and agreed, good. I promise you. I just don't know where you comes from. Zhang Chushuan, who knew what the other party was going to ask, directly reported his name. Nodding slightly, Su Yu continued to speak. However, Zhang Daoyu has changed the betting agreement, and the gap between winning and losing is a little large, which seems to be somewhat unfair, so I also want to change the betting agreement. How to change it? If you lose, the 2 fairies around you will be handed over to me. 35 Su Yu did not hide his greed. Perhaps also a provocation. Zhang Chushuan's eyes narrowed, and Su Yu and this guy were included in the list of must-kills. But not now. With a cold face, Zhang Chushuan said in a deep voice, I Zhang Chushuan never gamble with my own women, don't think about this. Own woman. Wu Yanxi and Bai Tenor were stunned when they heard this, followed by a warmth in their hearts, and at the same time, their pretty faces turned red. The 2 women looked at each other. Both saw the panic and joy in their eyes, and quickly lowered their heads, a little afraid to look at Zhang Chushuan's figure. Yes. Su Yu smiled evilly. These words were originally meant to shake Zhang Chushuan's state of mind. Just now, he also silently observed Zhang Chushuan's behavior, although the other party unlocked the secret very quickly, but Su Yu felt that the other party must have a heavy treasure on his body, or a heavy treasure that could hide his breath. Thinking of this, an imperceptible coldness flashed in Su Yu's eyes, and he nodded and agreed, okay, then follow what Taoist friends said. Good. Originally, Zhang Chushuan had almost understood the secret of this distance and was about to lift his feet, but Su Yu's kindness reminder made him want to play. After hearing Su Yu's self-reported home, he made up his mind that he wanted these guys to not be able to walk out of this place completely zero. So, after the bet took effect, Zhang Chushuan walked easily in it, leisurely. In just a few blinks of an eye, Zhang Chushuan reached out and patted Su Yu's back. The latter's eyes were full of disbelief, and he forgot to even find the goal of finding the next place to stay, and looked at each other blankly. At this time, Zhang Chushuan smiled at Su Yu and said softly, you're going to lose, I'll wait for you in front. One step out, he easily crossed Su Yu and came farther. Although Zhang Chushuan said that he could walk out completely, considering the 2 women behind him, he decided to mark the route for them. As for Su Yu and the others, it was completely impossible to follow his path. At the beginning, Zhang Chushuan tried this method, but because the starting point was different, the location of their landing was different. Fortunately, Bai Ten'er and Wu Yanxi had retreated, so that they could keep up with Zhang Chushuan's footsteps. Walking easily by, Zhang Chushuan quickly distanced himself from Su Yu. At the same time, Bai Ten'er and Wu Yanxi also followed his footsteps, and the distance was gradually narrowing. When the two women passed by, Su Yu was even more determined to get them. Damn, I have to hurry, there is still a chance. So, he said to the four people behind him, you still follow the footprints I left behind, I will go first, and I will pick you up later. 39. 4.4 inches. Don't worry, boss. Come on, boss, we believe you. Quote. Finish that guy, leave us alone. That's it, boss, avenge us. Quote. The four of them also knew the current situation, so they encouraged Su Yu together. Smiling at them faintly, Su Yu sped up. While calculating the exact landing position, you can also force forward so that you can get faster. The sun is on 3 poles, and the sun is scorching. When Zhang Chushuan took the last step and stepped onto the stone path in front of him, he glanced back. The two women are still more than a dozen feet away from him, but it won't be long before they can catch up directly. It was that Su Yu, which was somewhat unexpected by Zhang Chushuan. He followed closely behind the two women, only slightly slower. Kind of interesting. 78%. Chapter 310. Willing to gamble and lose, use value, subscription required. As for the remaining 4, there was no trace at all and had been thrown far away. Zhang Chushuan, how did you find the secret? After more than an hour of laborious walking, the two women finally came to Zhang Chushuan. At this time, they were sweating, their little faces were red, and their sideburns were wet with sweat. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan motioned for them to find a place to sit before he said, it's simple, because I can see. See, yes. 35. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan dropped his gaze on Wu Yanxi. You should know the power of devouring double pupils. Wu Yanxi reacted at once, and her eyes widened. Fujun said, devouring double pupils helped you. But, it. Hee, I saw some thin lines in my eyes. These lines seem to be somewhat regular. I followed the direction of these lines, tried it, but I didn't expect to succeed. But I only saw it for a moment, and I couldn't see it later. Zhang Chushuan was also surprised by this just now, but in the end did not say it. Because he knew that this might be a loophole in the formation here, and it just happened to be caught, which did not mean that the devouring double pupil had always had such an ability. After explaining, Zhang Chushuan turned to look at Su Yu in the rear. 04. Finally, 10 minutes later, he also successfully arrived. Looking at Zhang Chushuan, Su Yu was a little depressed. I lost. Yes, I am willing to gamble and lose. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan glanced at Su Yu more. After all, it is still somewhat surprising that such a family disciple can be like this. Su Yu took the initiative to hand over the storage ring on his body and said to him, when they come over, the bet will be completed. No hurry, I do have some questions, I want to ask Taoist friends. Zhang Chushuan's eyes narrowed slightly. Facing Zhang Chushuan, who was smiling, although Su Yu was displeased, he nodded slightly. Taoist friends, please speak. 99. How did you know about this place? Or are you stalking us? Feeling the killing intent in Zhang Chushuan's words, Su Yu was slightly stunned before he said, this is what I saw from the classics at home, and as for stalking you, I don't bother to do that. Because the timing is too coincidental, Zhang Chushuan has this problem. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan nodded. Okay, you might as well tell me what treasures there are here, maybe you and I will need to help each other when the time comes. 39. According to the original trajectory of Chu Yun's coming here, it was 3 years later, and he did not meet Su Yu and these people. Although he knew that both sides had bad intentions, Su Yu said truthfully, it is rumored that this is the place where a quasi-emperor fell, but who it is, there is no way to verify. As for what treasures are in it, I don't know below. But since it is the place where the emperor fell, there must be a lot of opportunities, so I came. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan set his gaze on Bai Ten'er, and after seeing that the other party was also confused, he dismissed the idea in his heart. The two sides fell silent for a while, and Su Yu even found a place away from Zhang Chushuan, and the three sat down cross-kneeled, and contacted the 4 people to get out of this place at the same time. Why wait for them to come together? We are already ahead. Bai Ten'er has always been very positive for the treasure. So when I saw that there were still competitors, I was a little anxious. %S1 at. Zhang Chushuan gave her a reassuring look and shook her head silently. Although it is said that he is with Su Yu on the kill list, before he dies, he may as well let him exert his residual heat and do something meaningful. It's the past half day again. Finally, the 5 of Su Yu reunited. The 4 were sweating profusely and sitting on the ground panting. After resting for a long time, they accepted reality and handed over their storage ring to Zhang Chushuan. Zhang Daoyu, let's go. That's exactly what it means. 9. The two sides, who were originally hostile to each other, actually walked together at this time and hunted for treasures together. A stone path, just like that, they walked through, and there were no buildings on either side. A group of 8 people could not speak without speaking, and they came to a fork in the road. There seemed to be a sign in this place, and Zhang Chushuan and Su Yu stepped forward one after another, making sure that it was a guiding sign. On the left-hand side, it is said to be a library cabinet, and on the right-hand side, it is said to be an alchemy room. Directly in front of it is a large hall, as if it is called something real. The handwriting on it was a little blurry, and they couldn't read it clearly. Hee, Zhang Daoyu, take a step ahead, I won't wait for you. 35. After Su Yu saw it clearly, he smiled at Zhang Chushuan, and then led the 4 people to the direction of the alchemy room. In these 3 places, there may be some opportunities in the alchemy room on the surface, and the other 2 have no effect. Ignoring them, Zhang Chushuan looked at the 2 women and asked, do you want to go to the library or the main hall? The 2 women looked at each other and said almost in unison, go to the main hall. For them, the library has no greater meaning, it is better to go and see whose resting place this is. Okay, then let's go. Continuing along the stone path, Zhang Chushuan looked at Bai Tenur. Tenur, when you and your sister came here, did you investigate which emperor's resting place is here? Next to him, Wu Yanxi also looked puzzled. Nope. Bai Tenur shook her head slightly. When she and her sister came, their strength was not strong, just because there was a saint who fell here for a while, who knew that it was actually an emperor. You are the reincarnation of a quasi-emperor, shouldn't you know it? Bai Tenur said strangely. Cough. Zhang Chushuan sighed in his heart. His quasi-emperor reincarnation water is very good. If you ask me about the great emperor, or even the quasi-emperor, I may be able to have some impressions. If you are not a quasi-emperor, after all, 393 is a nobody. The various formations and styles here, I am not familiar with it, and I have not intersected. Quote. Zhang Chushuan lied casually. The 2 women did not doubt it. The 3 women strode towards the main hall. Not long after, Bai Tenur suddenly said to Zhang Chushuan, hee, a few of them, they will definitely return empty-handed. Zhang Chushuan suddenly remembered that Bai Tenur had brought them here step by step, and had actually ignored such an important information. Have you been to the alchemy room? What about the other 2? I've only been to the alchemy room. Shaking her head, Bai Tenur said, I also came to Fang Kai's stone back then. It's just that it went directly to that place, which is different from today. At that time, I also wanted to go to the alchemy room to search for some elixirs or heavenly treasures, but I didn't find anything. Even the medicine garden in it has been destroyed, and only a ruin remains. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan gave Bai Tenur a thumbs up and said softly, you did a good job. Go, let's go to the main hall. Quote. The main hall was built on a hill, and they climbed all the way. But fortunately, there are stone steps, so it will not be too difficult. The cobblestone path is lined with trees, making it easy to calm down. They stopped and walked, and after 2 hours, they finally reached the top of the mountain. Seeking Immortal Hall. 78%. Chapter 311. 1 table, 2 paintings, subscription required. On the square of the Hall of Seeking Immortals, the 3 of Zhang Chushuan observed a little and walked towards the rear hall. Although I don't know how many years have passed, the square is spotless and even looks very new, as if it had just been built. The main hall is even more spectacular, with a height of more than 30 feet and a length and width of more than 60 feet. In front of the door, dragons and phoenixes are carved, and various demon beasts are carved in the sea on the major support pillars, staring at them as if they have come to life. If you are not careful, your mind will be involved. Bai Tenur just accidentally glanced at it more, and her forehead suddenly sweated profusely and her breathing was short. Seeing her unusual Wu Yanxi, he reached out and patted her shoulder, which woke it up. What's wrong with you? Seeing Wu Yanxi's concerned face, Bai Tenur took a deep breath before she said with trepidation, The demon beast in this seems to be coming to life, and the momentum is amazing. We just found ourselves besieged by countless demon beasts, and we were about to breathe. When Wu Yanxi heard this, she frowned slightly. She subconsciously rushed towards where Zhang Chushuan was, but found that the other party had already walked to the depths of the main hall, and her steps were slow. Seeing this, Wu Yanxi comforted Bai Tenor, and only then took the other party's hand and caught up with Zhang Chushuan. Look, what's different about this hall? 9. Zhang Chushuan spoke calmly, but stared straight ahead. Wu Yanxi and Bai Tenor looked at each other, and after a moment of silence, they shook their heads. It seems to be just an ordinary empty hall, there is nothing abnormal. 35. No, there may really be an imperial inheritance here. Zhang Chushuan's words broke the sky, causing the two women to be shocked. Their eyes were full of incredulity, but Zhang Chushuan didn't say much, and they could only guess in their hearts. There is no throne deep in the main hall, only an offering table. On the table were 3 black boxes, which contained unknown contents. On the pillars on either side of the table, there is a portrait of the same person, which seems to be the same person. On the portrait on the left, a young man looks like a young man, dressed in silver-white battle armor, holding an ancient green long sword, facing away from all sentient beings and facing the evil devil. There was blood dripping from the tip of the sword, and the young man's expression was full of exhaustion, but his face was solemn, and he did not flinch in the face of a million demons. It seems that the wind is blowing, and the armor behind the young man moves with the wind, which is very handsome, but it gives people a sense of desperation. The portrait on the right shows an old man. The old man was sitting on the threshold of a hut, his eyes looking into the distance, as if endless years had passed in it. At the old man's feet, there was also a hoe, but the hoe had been broken, and there was a new crack. In these 2 simple paintings, Zhang Chushuan and the 3 did not clearly understand the meaning. Meanwhile, another place. Su Yu brought his 4 brothers to the alchemy room. The alchemy room has collapsed, and it is covered with a lot of weeds. You can vaguely see that next to the alchemy room, there is a huge medicine garden. Seeing this, Su Yu ordered the 2 people beside him, go to the ruins of the alchemy room and see if you can find some useful. The remaining 2 come with me and go to the medicine garden. Those who were assigned to the ruins of the alchemy room were naturally the 4th and 5th elders. Hearing this, they looked at each other, full of helplessness, but they also obediently searched among the ruins. Su Yu took the 2nd and 3rd elders and walked towards the medicine garden. Boss, those 3 people, what are we going to do then? 39. Yes, such an important place as the main hall, we should go together. At this time, if they take away the treasures first, we will lose a lot. In the face of the worries of the 2nd and 3rd elders, Su Yu just smiled with his eyebrows, as if he was confident. Don't worry, the main hall is there. But they will definitely not find the treasure in it. 99. Boss, why are you? The 2nd and 3rd elders were still very puzzled, not understanding where Su Yu's confidence came from. Because, to open the hall, you need a key, and they can't find it. Boss, you mean, this key is in the alchemy room or the library cabinet? After separating from Zhang Chushuan, Su Yu told the 4 of them that if they wanted to find the treasures in the main hall, they must first go to the alchemy room or library cabinet. Nodding slightly, Su Yu slowly spoke, that's right. So, they definitely have nothing now. But what if they find the key in the library and get ahead of us? Hearing this, Su Yu shook his head even more, very confident, only by finding something in 2 places can you get the clue of the key. Well, without further ado, let's see what else is in the medicine garden. Although the 2nd and 3rd elders were constantly puzzled in their hearts, they did not dare to refute Su Yu's words. The alchemy house and the medicine garden are built between 2 mountains, the former at the foot of a mountain, occupying less than 1/3 of the position. On the other side, it is all medicine garden. As soon as the 3 of them walked in, they smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. Happy in their hearts, they hurriedly quickened their steps and walked over. How so? But when they saw the whole picture of the medicine garden, the scene in front of them shocked them, and at the same time they were a little angry. This huge medicine garden has been transformed beyond recognition. The land seemed to have been rearranged, and many of the elixirs that had withered were pressed underneath. Not only that, but there were big pits everywhere in the medicine garden, as if there were traces of battle. The 3 hurriedly stepped forward to investigate, but found that these traces were not left recently. It could only be people who had come here before, and there was a scramble here, which exploded. Send a fight. Damn, we're late. Despite their efforts to search the medicine garden, the three did not find a single elixir, not even a single intact leaf. The medicinal fragrance that Fang just smelled was also left here. The medicine garden has a small confinement formation, which imprisons all the spiritual energy in it, promotes the growth of the elixir, and also imprisons the fragrance of the elixir. But now, it's all gone. Let's go to the alchemy room and take a look. Su Yu's face was gloomy, and without saying a word, the second and third elders hurriedly followed. Boss. The fourth and fifth elders hurriedly came out, and after seeing Su Yu, they said loudly, "We rummaged through the entire alchemy room, and we didn't even see a single bit of medicinal residue. There are quite a few fragments of the alchemy furnace in it, but after such a long time, it will turn into flying ash when touched, and it is useless." When Su Yu heard this, his face became even more gloomy. He originally thought that this alchemy room was the place with the most opportunities, but nothing happened. They just missed a point. They and Zhang Chushuan, and they were not the first people to come here. Perhaps a long time ago, many people ransacked the place. Empty rule. The messy medicine garden is proof of that. Su Yu stood in place and was silent, and the rest of the people naturally did not dare to speak. For a long time, Su Yu snorted coldly and said angrily, go to the library pavilion." 79%. Chapter 312. Is there someone in the painting, or is it a holy spirit? Subscription required. In the Hall of Seeking Immortals, Zhang Chushuan and the three of them tinkered at the offering table for a long time, but failed to discover the secrets in the three black boxes. They can't even open this box in all ways, by fire, ice, vigorous destruction, and corrosion. Not only that, under their attack, these three boxes did not move. It seems that this box is also a rare treasure, otherwise it would not be so hard and firm. Wu Yanxi gave up the attack, because she already knew that with her current strength, it was impossible to break through violently. Zhang Chushuan frowned, but his mind kept searching for information about this kind of material, but there was no clue. Seeking Immortals, what is Seeking Immortals? Muttering in his mouth, Zhang Chushuan began to think about the main hall. As a great emperor, there are people who go to the Starry Sky Ancient Road to seek opportunities to reach a higher level, and there are also people who voluntarily defend the Terran town, so that their souls are scattered. They may go in different directions, but they all have the same purpose, to protect the Terrans under this heaven and earth. And only by constantly getting stronger can we protect all sentient beings. Could it be that this path of seeking immortals is hidden in a certain ancient road of stars? Zhang Chushuan's mind suddenly flashed, and he asked Wu Yanxi, "Yanxi, how much do you know about the Xingqian Ancient Road?" The Ancient Road is derived from the Starry Sky Ancient Road, and it is said that after some changes hundreds of thousands of years ago, it can only be found in Zhongzhou. "I don't know much." Wu Yanxi shook his head slightly, and 397 also looked sad. "Zhongzhou has a lot of news. I heard before I fell asleep that most of the Starry Sky Ancient Road has been controlled by the evil race, plus some are controlled by foreign races. My human race must hide their identity and act carefully when entering it, otherwise they will summon the scourge of killing. So the news about the Starry Sky Ancient Road has not come out much." Quote, "Star Ancient Road, if the strength reaches the King Realm, you can try to explore and obtain the qualification to enter the Starry Sky Ancient Road, but I haven't had time to try it yet, because I heard that the farther you enter the first time, the richer the reward, and I plan to break through the Saint Realm and go again." This way. Zhang Chushuan nodded with some disappointment. But he quickly adjusted and said to the two women, let's go to the library first." "But what about these three boxes?" Baitaner is a little reluctant. When Zhang Chushuan heard this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. "We can't help these three boxes. Do you think that a few of them can have such ability?" "Don't worry, as long as it is not taken out, we still have a chance to find a way to open the box." At this time, Baitaner was slightly relieved, and followed Zhang Chushuan, and the two were about to leave. "Zhang Daoyu, what a coincidence." Suddenly, Su Yu and his group of 5 appeared from the entrance of the main hall and blocked the way. Baitaner left and stopped the offering table behind her, looking a little wary. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, of course, looking for Chance, Fairy. 35. Humph." Hearing this, Baitaner snorted coldly and did not look at these dying people. Su Yu didn't feel embarrassed either, but instead fell his gaze on Zhang Chushuan. "Zhang Daoyu, can you gain anything?" Zhang Chushuan shook his head slightly, his face calm. "In this hall, except for 2 portraits and a table, there is nothing else." Oh, Su Yu obviously didn't believe it. Zhang Chushuan just thought that someone was testing the danger, so he motioned for Baitaner to get out of the way and let them see clearly. After seeing the 3 black boxes on the table, Su Yu's eyes flashed, and a smile appeared from the corner of his mouth. Zhang Daoyu, what is in this box? Zhang Chushuan gave him a foolish look. If he knew what was in the box, it meant that he had taken it. The brain runs again, you won't see for yourself. Wu Yanxi complained speechlessly. Su Yu was not embarrassed, he was just tempting. Zhang Chushuan really didn't bother to pay attention to this fool, and pulled the 2 women to the side to leave. After Su Yu gave the 4 people a look, he slowly came to the offering table. Like Zhang Chushuan, this box could not be opened no matter what method was used, and Su Yu also believed Zhang Chushuan's words and bowed slightly at him. However, Su Yu didn't seem to be discouraged by this, but smiled at Zhang Chushuan. Daoyu, how about making a deal with you next? Trade. This piqued Zhang Chushuan's interest. Apparently, this guy has a way to get the box open. Tell me, how to trade? Su Yu began to pace around the offering table. There are some clues about this treasure below. 35. If you can find 3 items, you can open the box. In other words, each box corresponds to the same item, but no one knows what the item is. It could also be a treasure of the day, or it could be a bunch of star dirt. But what is certain is that these 3 items are near this hall, the alchemy room and the hidden scripture pavilion. As long as you search, you will definitely find them. My deal is simple. If one of the 3 items gets by one of us, the transaction is cancelled. 35. But each side has a part. Let's open the box first, and if we want each other's things, let's exchange them. How? In fact, this transaction is very simple. Su Yu used his own news to get an opportunity to exchange treasures. As for who can find the 3 items, it depends on chance. When Zhang Chushuan heard this, he showed a thoughtful look, and then nodded and agreed, okay, I promise you. If they were not familiar with Su Yu to give the news, they would definitely not be able to help. However, Su Yu is already a certain person, so how about this deal? The final winner is naturally Zhang Chushuan alone. Ha ha ha, okay, then it's settled. Let's go first. Laughing, Su Yu left the main hall with 4 people and went to look for the 3 items. Baitaner suddenly walked up to Zhang Chushuan, a little angry. Zhang Chushuan, what do you promise them to do? Don't worry, they can't take it. A killing intent emanated from Zhang Chushuan, and Baitaner was stunned for a moment before returning to a smile. Original. You are playing this abacus, not bad, very in line with my mind. The 3 of them did not rush to look for it, and still stayed in the main hall. Click. Hum. Suddenly, after Wu Yanxi accidentally stepped on one of the floor tiles, a transparent ripple immediately appeared in the main hall, enveloping the 3 of them in the blink of an eye. Then everything returned to normal, but the young man in the portrait on the left appeared in front of the 3 people. This is. Baitaner was taken aback. After all, this exists, exactly like the person in the portrait. She carefully glanced at the portrait, but found that the young man in the painting had disappeared, and the place where he had been was blank. Zhang Chushuan and Wu Yanxi were also attracted by this movement and fell their eyes on the young man. The young man ignored the 3 of them, but looked around, his eyes seeming to have a look of remembrance. After walking around the main hall, the young man finally stopped in front of the offering table, faced the 3 Zhang Chushuan, and let out a long sigh. Alas. Lonely, sad, helpless. Various emotions seemed to be mixed in, making the listener sad and the listener cry. Zhang Chushuan did not disturb the other party and waited quietly. For a long time, the young man's eyes swept over the 3 people. I think, many years have passed now. 79%. Chapter 313. Ancient Saint, Treasure Bestowed by Seniors Subscription. On the other side, walking out of the main hall, Su Yu stopped in the square with 4 people. Boss, why tell them key information? We can find out for ourselves. Quote. Old Fifth expressed dissatisfaction. The 5 of them were not enough to divide good things, and of course they did not want to distribute the treasures to outsiders. Hearing this, Su Yu smiled mysteriously. Those 3 items, how can they be so easy to get? As far as I know, someone has found at most 2 of them, and as for the last one, no one has seen it. And I happen to know the whereabouts of those 2 items. Didn't all the contents of those 2 boxes be taken away? Oh, exactly. So next, we can take a break, and when they find the last item, we can take it away without much effort. The 4 of them instantly understood the meaning of Su Yan's words and laughed. But what if they can't find it? 35. That's not going to happen, but we're not going to run in vain. Looking at Su Yu's smile, the four laughed. They knew that their boss was finally going to do something to those three. The third elder walked to Su Yu and said in a deep voice, "Boss, those two fairies, can you?" "Don't worry, a few of us, everyone has a share." Ha 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 ha. Strength comes with desire, and that's never wrong. What's more, Wu Yanxi and Bai Tenor are both first class and peerless, and they are still virgins. Alas, in the Hall of Seeking Immortals, after the young man sighed, his eyes fell on Wu Yanxi, a little curious. "There seems to be an ancient aura on you." 35. You, a descendant of the imperial family. Before being seen, Bai Tenor was shocked in her heart, but she still answered truthfully, "Yes, I will recover my memory and activate the imperial bloodline in my body soon." Quote. Bai Tenor is not stupid, although the person in this painting does not seem to be in danger, and she does not carry the first, but she does not disclose her own information. The holy body is the key, and it must not be coveted. It is the identity of the imperial family, which can be used to shock people. The painting youth nodded faintly, turned his head to look at Zhang Chushuan, and said, "Devouring the holy rune." Exactly. Zhang Chushuan's eyes flashed slightly. This soul body is a bit interesting. Good. The young man nodded slightly. Devouring the holy rune, I have also heard of it, but I have never seen it. That devouring emperor, I have been longing for a long time, but loneliness, endless loneliness. But the young man seemed reluctant to mention the past, and passed these strokes aside. Since you can come here, it is the opportunity for you to wait. Senior, dare to ask you is. Bai Tenor couldn't suppress the curiosity in her heart, and boldly asked the young man. He, just a nobody. Waving his hand slightly, the young man walked around again and said, "This place is a treasure hall that I built when I was alive. At that time, all the brothers were still there, but it was just a decision that year, let me and my brothers." At this time, Zhang Chushuan and the three also understood that although this young man had not revealed his identity, he was also a hero of the Terran race. Because after he became the emperor, he led the people around him to resist the evil demons. However, the power of the demons was too strong, they were defeated, and in the end, only he survived the serious injury. That is, after that, he sank for endless years, and finally could not bear the decline of his inheritance, so he built this treasure hall, hoping that one day, someone who is destined to enter it and obtain its inheritance, so as to resist the evil demons. After intermittently telling Zhang Chushuan some of the past events, the young man looked serious and said to them, "I don't have much time, and this is my last obsession to remain in the world. Don't let the human race be attacked by evil demons. When the time comes, the sky will cry blood, and no one will be able to save us in the end of the human race. You need to improve your strength and do your part for the Terrans." The man's voice was pathetic. The three of Zhang Chushuan had solemn expressions. Speaking of which, back then, Bai Tenor almost died with the devil. Now that he has the devouring rune, he can't escape his fate. Thinking of this, Zhang Mu directly agreed. "Please rest assured, Senior, I will naturally understand how to do it." Good, good, good. Smiling and nodding, the three of them saw the young man stretch out his hand, and the black box on the far right of the table was opened, and a stream of light came out of it. The young man drank lightly, and the streamer suddenly stopped, revealing his true face. "This is the Junction Seal, an imperial artifact I obtained back then. Although it is only a high-grade imperial artifact, the precious emperor is not inferior to some holy weapons. Now, I will pass on the Junction Seal to her, and hope that you will protect the great rivers and mountains of the human race." After saying that, the Junction Seal fell from the sky and fell into Wu Yanxi's hands. That's right, not Zhang Chushuan, not Bai Tenor. Senior, this. Wu Yanxi was a little surprised. After all, in her opinion, this town mountain seal should be handed over to Zhang Chushuan. But the young man waved his hand and said to him, "This thing will be handed over to you first, only you need her, and I feel that you can exert more powerful power. I hope you don't want to give up. Zero asking for flowers. As for who to give it to in the future, you decide for yourself." After the young man took a deep look at the three of Zhang Chushuan, his body gradually faded and finally dissipated into the world. The main hall was quiet again, and Wu Yanxi held the Junction Seal in his hand and came to Zhang Chushuan. "Master, I don't need any magic weapons, let's give it to you." Quote. "No, this is given by the senior, you take it." Quote. The corners of Zhang Chushuan's mouth were slightly upturned, and he said to Wu Yanxi, "I believe in the vision of the seniors, and I also believe that you can restore the peak and climb to a higher level. Wu Yanxi struggled for a while, but finally nodded and agreed. Looking around the hall, Zhang Chushuan said to the two women beside him, "Okay, we should leave too. But there are two more boxes here, and we. Don't you open it." Bai Tenor was still a little unwilling, and when Zhang Chushuan's words calmed her down, presumably there are no treasures in it. "What do you say? How do you know?" But Zhang Chushuan did not answer Bai Tenor's words, but walked towards the outside of the main hall. Bai Tenor was stunned for a moment, and then followed. "Zhang Chushuan, you make it clear to me." Quote. Let's go out." Wu Yanxi and the two daughters hurriedly followed Zhang Chushuan's footsteps, but they met Su Yu and several people at the entrance of the main hall. "Dao Yu, it seems that you have a clue." Seeing that the other party seemed to have been waiting outside and had not left, Zhang Chushuan said, "There are no clues, but I always have to look for them." "How? Has Taoist been found?" "Hee, how easy is it? Without chance, I'm afraid I won't be able to find it in this life." Shaking his head and smiling bitterly, Su Yu seemed to be very lost. Seeing this, Zhang Chushuan did not debunk the other party and passed by. After the three left, the second elder came to Su Yu. "Boss, just let them go. Only then did we feel that there was a treasure light in the main hall, maybe they had already. Hee, put it on them for a while, let's go." 35. Su Yu took the lead in re-entering the main hall, but still the same as before, nothing was found. "Big brother, look here." 35. Old Fourth discovered the abnormality of the portrait on the left, and after Su Yu came over, he wondered, before, there seemed to be a young man in this portrait, but now. Originally, Su Yu just thought that the treasure light was Zhang Chushuan and they attacked and escaped, but obviously this was not the case. Damn, the most precious thing was found by them, we chase. River. 79%. Chapter 314. Old Farmer, Mysterious Recipe, Subscription Required. Where are we going? Year. Bai Tenor was a little puzzled. Zhang Chushuan did not explain, but continued to lead them forward. Soon after, the group of three came to the depths of the back mountain. The area is completely covered in forest, the surrounding area is very quiet, and there is no living life. But Zhang Chushuan carved out a path out of the forest and soon came to a hut. Looking at the familiar scene in front of him, Bai Tenor's eyes widened and she couldn't believe it. "Here, isn't this the place on top of another painting? How do you know?" Although the three had seen each other, the two women did not know whether that place really existed or where the old man wanted to be. Zhang Chushuan thought, "I can't tell you, I've read the script." Zhang Chushuan stopped and said to the two women, "This is the real inheritance place. What happened to the young man? What's going on with Junshin Yin?" Bai Tenor was already a little messy. Although it was not the first time she had entered it, this somewhat erroneous hut had never been heard of, let alone found it. Last time, Na didn't enter the Hall of Immortal Seeking, just because there was another group of people besides her at that time. She was chased and fled in a panic, triggering one of the mechanisms and being teleported to the original entrance. It's all true, but no matter how strong the magic weapon is, no one controls it, it's just a dead thing, isn't it? Zhang Chushuan's words made Bai Tenor think slightly. On the side, Wu Yanxi agreed with what Zhang Chushuan said, "Senior is right. Even a grass, in the hands of the strong, can burst out with the ability to destroy the heavens and the earth. So we can't always rely on external objects to strengthen ourselves." Casting an approving glance at Wu Yanxi, Zhang Chushuan walked to the hut and looked at it carefully. This is an ordinary hut, but perhaps with the protection of the formation, even after many years, it has not collapsed. Pushing open the door, the hut was empty, but the futons and tables inside could not resist the erosion of time and quietly corroded. After pushing open the door, the futon and table quietly shattered and turned into a pile of dust. Zhang Chushuan paused slightly, then bowed slightly, and said towards the empty room, "I didn't mean to offend, but I came here by chance. I hope the owner of this place will come out and see you." When Wu Yanxi and Bai Tenor heard this, they looked at each other one after another, and the color of incomprehension in their eyes was thick. After waiting for a while, there was still silence all around. Zhang Chushuan was not in a hurry, but said lightly, "Now that an inheritance has been obtained by the people around you, please show up." On the side, Wu Yanxi heard this and took out the Junshin seal. Suddenly, the whole hut shone brightly, stabbing the three people unable to open their eyes. When the light dissipated, a slightly illusory figure stood in front of them. "It's him," Bai Tenor exclaimed, pointing at the other party and speechless. What appeared was the old man in another painting. Like the clothes on the painting, coarse linen clothes, an image of an old farmer, very old. I'm sure you've already met him. The old man slowly spoke, his voice desolate and ancient. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan nodded slightly. That's right. He has already told us something. Well, it is also a little luck of the old man to be able to wait for you in my lifetime. After saying that, the old man suddenly looked at Zhang Chushuan and smiled. Little doll, come and sit down. Zhang Chushuan looked strange, but still obediently sat down on the empty ground. The old man walked up to him, some illusory old hand, touched the top of his head, and whispered, close your eyes and feel carefully. As the old man's voice fell, a mysterious phrase entered the ears of the three people. Sit with your eyes closed, hold your mind and meditate. 6,699. One bite into 3 swallows, the dragon and the tiger run freely. 995. God returned to the Yuanai with his qi, and his achievements were immortals. 35. At first, Baitaner and Wu Yanxi still didn't understand the old man's words, but when they felt the true meaning, they sat cross-kneeled and closed their eyes carefully. Sentiment. The old man spoke very slowly, although it was only a few hundred words, but it was enough for 2 incense sticks. Withdrawing the hand that caressed the top of Zhang Chushuan's head, the old man did not bother. Quote. An hour later, Zhang Chushuan woke up in a self-determination, but he could not see the old man's figure. Behind him, Baitaner and Wu Yanxi were still feeling what the old man said. Zhang Chushuan saw this, lightly came to the outside world, and looked into the distance. At this time, the mountains and rivers, in Wang Yifan's eyes, have a unique flow of qi, and every living being has a set trajectory 0. But when he stared at the pursuit, those gas engines disappeared in the blink of an eye, and there were still those scenery in front of him. I forced it. Stunned for a moment, Zhang Chushuan shook his head and smiled bitterly, knowing that he was in a bit of a hurry. By the way, I can let the 100-fold reward system see if it can be upgraded or copied. Just do it. Zhang Chushuan immediately turned on the system and prepared a blank jade jane. But when he was about to portray what Fang Kai heard, he found that he couldn't remember anything and couldn't write. This. Unwillingly, he tried several times, but failed. But after trying to operate according to the old man's teachings, Zhang Chushuan really felt its presence. What's going on? Fu-kun. Just as Zhang Chushuan was pondering, Wu Yanxi's gentle voice came from behind him. He immediately looked at Wu Yanxi and asked, do you remember what old man Fang Kai said? Remember. Write it down. Zhang Chushuan handed the jade jane to Wu Yanxi and said, try it. There was a slight look of anticipation in his eyes. Wu Yanxi was about to do so after taking the jade jane, but the jade hand stopped in midair, showing doubts. After a long time, she looked at Zhang Chushuan again and said, Fujun, I can't write it. Quote. Seeing her look of self-reproach, Zhang Chushuan smiled gently, explained Fang Kai's matter 4.4, and then said, it seems that this method has been engraved in our bodies. Do not pass it on. Rest assured, it's fine. Quote. Listening to him say this, Wu Yanxi relaxed a lot. A quarter of an hour later, Baitaner also woke up from her concentration, with a happy face. I seem to have obtained a mental method, but no matter what, I can't rub it down. Strange. Weird, really strange. Quote. This is normal, let's go. 35. Zhang Chushuan's voice had just fell, only to find that they were already standing at the entrance of the valley. When I looked back, the hut was nowhere to be seen. Everything was as if it hadn't happened, and there was no trace. Although full of doubts, Zhang Chushuan still said to the two, this is the matter, we should also leave. 39. Then what about Su Yu? You won't just let them go, will you? 79%. Chapter 315. 6 Pins Shengyang City, Qingliang Zan, subscription required. Don't worry, they can't run far. Zhang Chushuan was full of confidence and said to the two women, next, we have to go to a place, you guys together, or go back first. This time there was a lot of gains, but for Zhang Chushuan, it was still a little insufficient. So he decided to continue looking outside. Thinking that this place was relatively close to Shengyangmen, he decided to go first. Where are the seniors going? Wu Yanxi's every move was fully revealed. Zhang Chushuan enjoyed the scenery and said, Shengyangmen. 35. Those guys in Shengyangmen, but they are all playing with fire, and their tempers are a little grumpy, what are you doing there? The Shengyang Gate, which is the same as the Blood Dao sect, is not the strongest among them, but there are also many prestige rumors. The most outstanding of them is that almost the entire Shenyang Gate has practiced a kind of fire system exercise, dominating one side and playing a great name. It seems that because of the exercises, their tempers are a little grumpy, unlike those guys in the Water Dragon Hall. Of course, to have fun. Zhang Chushuan laughed and said to the two women, there may be a while, if you want to continue to digest the gains here, you can go back first and consolidate it. No need, senior, I want to go with you. Wu Yanxi shook her head and looked firm. How can this kind of exploration, doing things, and traveling be less of me? As time passed, Wu Yanxi became less and less concerned about her image. The last time she went to the academy with Zhang Yanren, she missed a lot of fun things. Especially after Blood Knife Gate met Zhang Chushuan, she concluded that this man liked to do things like herself. Bai Tener's eyes fluctuated for a while, and finally decided to mix in, then I'll go with you, it's okay anyway. Dirt is indispensable. After the group of three found the direction, they rushed towards the location of the Shenyang Gate. At the same time, Su Yu was very depressed. They went to catch up with the three Zhang Chushuan at the first time, but no matter how they used the means of unity, they could not find the slightest breath from each other. This made him very crazy, and the four people on the side were even more trembling, and the atmosphere did not dare to come out. Go. After venting, Su Yu finally spoke and said to the four people, the next time we meet this Zhang Chushuan, we will settle the account with him. Boss, aren't we going to Shengyangmen to discuss some things? The third elder came to Su Yu and said, originally, it should have been inside the Shenyang Gate at this time, but we delayed here for some time. It is better for us to complete the tasks assigned by the head of the family as soon as possible. When Su Yu heard this, he pondered for a moment, and then laughed. In that case, go over there. Shengyangmen Prefecture City is above Yangmingming, which is basically the production place of most magic weapons and spiritual weapons in the southern part of Lingzhou domain. After all, most of the sects stationed in it will refine weapons. This also caused Shengyangmen to be particularly famous for its magic weapons. There are countless cultivators who come to Shenyang City every day to buy magic weapons. The streets are full of people, and there are even vendors selling all kinds of magic weapons on the street. But in the eyes of experienced people, the magic weapons they boast about are only defective products, and some of them are only mortal weapons, which cannot reach the level of magic weapons at all. However, some newcomers to the monks are easily deceived by these vendors. There is no shortage of them who come to make trouble because of the upper side, but because the merchants have their backs to the Yangmen, they finally give up. On this day, in Shenyang City, two men and a woman walked out of a shop specializing in teleportation arrays. The three of them are Zhang Chushuan, Wu Yanxi, and Bai Tener. It is worthy of being the main city of the six-rank power of the millennium, and it looks very lively. And it's hot here. As soon as she stepped into the city, Bai Tener felt a wave of heat rushing towards her. This heat wave is not a scorching heat that ordinary people can feel, but a pregnancy that can be felt by the strong of the divine mansion realm. There are walks. Fortunately, the monks in the city can do not invade the cold and heat, and there is not much reaction to these heat waves. But the mortals in the city are all dressed coolly, and the men are even more bare with half of their arms. Although the woman pays attention to something, she is also unrestrained and bold, unlike other places. Zhang Chushuan just looked at the scene on the street, and was about to take the two daughters to find an inn, when suddenly, a Xingyi boy appeared next to him. Xiao Xiao also showed half of his arms, and his body was sweaty. 3 people, presumably you came to our Shenyang city for the first time, right? Zhang Chushuan glanced at the other party in surprise, and although he did not speak, his eyes were exposed. I'm a resident of this neighborhood, you can call me a C. I wonder what the needs of the 4 are. Don't worry, as long as I know, I promise to satisfy you. He also found that several people nearby were eager to try, annoyed that this AC was one step ahead, and hoped that Zhang Chushuan would reject a C and choose them. Zhang Chushuan immediately understood that this AC was a similar existence as a tour guide, helping strangers who came to Shengyangmen for the first time and avoiding wasting time. How many spirit stones do you need? Breaking the other party's purpose with one word, the corners of Zhang Chushuan's mouth were slightly upturned. Don't worry, as long as the price is reasonable, I will pay you on the spot. A C was obviously surprised, but he had been in the market for many years, and quickly reacted. 3. As long as 3 spirit stones, my 4 days are yours. 35. The price is fair. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan took out 3 Shangpin spirit stones directly from the system space and handed them to a C. Let's find a place to stay first. Aussie was holding 3 top-grade spirit stones, a little out of his mind. Aren't you going to lead the way? It was Baitanur's words that made him wake up. Showing a look of ecstasy, he hurriedly bent down and said to the 3 people 403, "Guest officer, please, I promise to satisfy you." Asi originally thought that with 3 lower products temporary, it would be a good income today, who knew that Zhang Chushuan was so generous. Alas, Asi was really lucky today, and he actually met a noble man who made a big move. Yes, 3 Shengpin spirit stones, it seems that you don't have to pull guests for a month, right? Envy does not come, envy does not come. The rest crestfallen and set their eyes back on the entrance, hoping to wait for the next customer. "Officer, this is the place." Taking Zhang Chushuan and the 3 of them to walk for a moment in the alleys of the city, an antique building appeared in front of them. Among them, people come and go, and it is very lively. At the entrance of the shop, there is even a device that sprays a thin white water mist, resembling a dragon. One on the left and one on the left and right of the gate. As soon as they walked in, Zhang Chushuan and the 3 of them felt a trace of coolness. Because of this device, many mortals in the vicinity gathered together and enjoyed it. "Oh, is this to cool the neighborhood?" Hearing Zhang Chushuan's voice, Asi hurriedly spoke. "The guest officer has good eyesight. Let's go to Yang City, because there are countless fire veins underground, so no matter day or night, it is extremely hot." 5. But the hottest is still daytime, which is simply not something that people can bear, so there are many such spiritual weapons, but only large families can enjoy them. 80%. Chapter 316 Weird Merchant, Astute Wu Yanxi. We ordinary people, we can only stare dryly. Not to mention them, when I don't have business, I will also come here to cool down. Fortunately, the owner of this shop is kind and does not drive us, otherwise how can we survive this hot weather? When Aussie introduced, he did not forget to praise the owner of this shop. The 3 of Zhang Chushuan looked up. I saw that the 3 big characters, Qingliangshuan, were engraved on a plaque and were hanging above the main entrance. Like its name, coming here does feel very cool, and there is no need to consume your spiritual power. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan and the 3, led by AC, walked into the store. The entrance to the gate is separated by a lotus pond, which is different on the left and right. A little turn to the left brings you to the hall behind the lotus pond, from which some guests talk and laugh. To the right of the lotus pond, there is a staircase towards the 2nd floor, which is very quiet. "Guest, do you 3 stay first, or?" Facing Asi's expectant gaze, Zhang Chushuan raised his foot and walked towards the right staircase. "Arrange 2 rooms for us, and call a signboard in the store." Okay, the 3 guest officials please go upstairs first, and the little one will arrange it for you immediately. At this time, Asi grabbed a passing little 2 and said, "Arrange 2 upper rooms for these 3 distinguished guests, and I'll call the boss lady." "Okay, guest officer please." When Zhang Chushuan and they went upstairs, Asi hurriedly found the lady who was busy behind the counter and said loudly, "Lady, I brought you guests." 5. A4 just glanced at Asi, and the boss lady immersed herself in her own business again. Bring it, find someone to arrange it, oh, this is for you." Receiving some broken silver thrown by the boss lady, Asi did not leave. A quarter of an hour later, the proprietress put Asi still standing, and couldn't help but ask, "If you don't greet the guests, what are you doing here?" "Hee, hostess, this time as a distinguished guest, you these." With that, Asi threw the broken silver in his hand. Seeing this, the hostess was a little displeased. "You say that you are a distinguished guest every time, but which time is it true?" "Asi, it's not that the old lady I don't take care of you, it's really that the guests you brought here are too shabby, and it is enough to feed you on these." "It's a distinguished guest this time." Quietly glanced around, and seeing that no one was paying attention, Asi and the boss lady got closer and whispered what had just happened. "Boss lady, what I said is true, if you don't believe it, you can go and see it. It's just that this little money is too little." Quote. Seeing that Asi didn't seem to be lying, the boss lady hesitated, but still threw him a lower grade spirit stone, and said, "Asi, you better not lie to me, otherwise you won't come to this Qingliangzan in the future." "How can it be, lady? Then I will go first, and if the guest has orders, you must inform me." 35. Okay, the old lady knows. When Asi left, the boss lady stopped her work and fell her eyes on the 2nd floor. Seeing Yi Shower walking towards the 2nd floor with food, the proprietress waved her hand and signaled him to come over. "Which guest room are you sending this to?" "The 3 people that a Sigang brought." 99. Shower also had a smile on his face. Boss lady, let me tell you, that man is a lot more handsome, and the two fairies beside him are really water spirits. To have a body, too. Okay, I'll send it personally, you go and do other things. In Shower's surprised gaze, the boss lady took the lunchbox from him and walked towards the second floor. By the way, which room are they? Heavenly characters 3 and 4. Now all in room 335. Got it. Looking at the swaying posture of the boss lady, Shower couldn't help but light up her eyes. Oh, when will I be able to marry the same wife as the boss lady? Knock knock. In the room on the second floor, Zhang Chushuan had just sat down when there was a knock on the door of the room. Hee, 3 guest officials are good. Walking into it with a lunchbox, the boss lady glanced at Wu Yanxi and Bai Tenor, and then looked at Zhang Chushuan. I am the boss lady here, what are the 3 of them, but just tell me. Thank you. Although he was surprised why the lady came personally, Zhang Chushuan did not ask much. Seeing this, the boss lady laughed twice and prepared to retreat. Then, I won't bother the 3, please use it slowly. The room returned to calm again, and Wu Yanxi saw that Zhang Chushuan was eating, so she intimately sat down next to him and poured him wine. Fujun, there seems to be a problem with this shop. Wu Yanxi is very intelligent, and from the boss lady's words and actions, she detected a trace of abnormality. In such a shop, the hostess should be very busy, it is impossible to treat every customer like this. Quote. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan put down the dishes and chopsticks and nodded. That's right, it's just that we don't know the other party's purpose yet, so we shouldn't know anything. Rest, we'll go to the city later. Aha, good. Ah Si was very happy today, and after bringing guests once or twice, he saw the boss lady holding her chin and looking at the second floor silent, so she stepped forward and said with a smile, Boss lady, I didn't lie to you, right? A4, what is the origin of these 3 people? Seeing that the boss lady looked a little bad, A chuckled in her heart and became cautious. Boss lady, you. Why do you say that? But the boss lady just shook her head and said, forget it, you don't know if you ask, let's do your own thing. Quote. At this time, Zhang Chushuan and the 3 happened to come down from the second floor, and when A saw this, he put aside the doubts in his heart and hurriedly stepped forward. Guest officer, you are going to. Out. Aha, we're going to go see the spirit artifact. Ah, I know this well, go, the little one will take you there, so as not to be pitted by others. 5. A4 great joy, hurriedly invited Zhang Chushuan and the 3 to follow. When passing by, Zhang Chushuan glanced at the hostess, but the other party was busy and did not speak. On the way, Ah Si is introducing Zhang Chushuan and the 3 of them to the situation in the city, such as several family treasures. I don't know what grade and attribute spiritual weapon I want objectively. Most of our Shenyang city is mainly based on fire attribute spiritual weapons, so if you want to find other better spiritual weapons, you can only go to one place. Oh, what place? Shenyang Chamber of Commerce. 99. Zhang Chushuan nodded appreciatively, somewhat agreeing with this. Only the Chamber of Commerce can gather heavenly and earth treasures from all over the world and various spiritual weapons. Then go to the Shenyang Chamber of Commerce, I don't know if there is anything I want. Just casually put forward a reason to stroll, Zhang Chushuan naturally won't be too serious Joe. Okay, guest officer please. Just as they were leaving, 5 people walked out of the shop that operated the teleportation array. It was Su Yu and them, but at this time they didn't seem to be in a good state, and their clothes were torn in many places. 80%. Chapter 317 Don't want spirit stones for heaven level top spirit weapons. Damn, how can such a thing happen? Su Yu looked angry, and the faces of the 4 people beside him were even more ugly. When passers-by see them, they will subconsciously avoid them so as not to cause trouble. After coming out of that sage secret realm, they came to Shenyang Gate according to their original plan, preparing to make a fixed deal with it. But who would have thought that there was a group of people on the road who were not afraid of death, robbing them? Although the other party was served, several of them were also embarrassed, and the 5th elder was even injured, and was supported by the 3rd elder at this time. They must be more than those few people. They must find out this matter, find out the people behind it, no matter what way, make them pay the price. Quote. Don't worry, boss. The 2nd elder clenched his fists, and his heart was equally resentful. Thinking that the people of his Su family, the top 6th rank family from the 5-pin dynasty, would actually be ambushed and used as the object of robbery. It was a shame to spread it. If it weren't for the strength enough, they would now be a handful of Lois. Determined, Su Yu looked at the four people around him and said, "Let's go. First go to the Shenyang Chamber of Commerce and buy some temporary magic weapons." In that battle, several of them even destroyed all the heaven-rank spiritual weapons they carried, and only then did they kill each other. At this time, they are like tigers with empty bodies, but if anyone wants to disobey them, they have no power to resist. 403. When the four heard this, they nodded separately. "Boss, are we? First arrange the fifth elder to heal, otherwise." The third elder helped the fifth elder to come to Su Yu at this time, and said in a deep voice, "The fifth elder is seriously injured. If you don't receive treatment, I'm afraid." "I'm okay, boss." But the fifth elder looked indifferent. "Speaking of the great emperor, I am still inferior in skill. When I go back this time, I will definitely cultivate well." Su Yu, who was somewhat satisfied with old fifth's attitude, nodded, very pleased. "I am very happy that you can think like this. But the third is right, you really should heal. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome to leave a dark disease." Quote. After thinking about it, Su Yu said to the third elder, "Third elder, you arrange the fifth elder, and then go to the Shenyang Chamber of Commerce to find us." "Yes, boss." Watching the two leave, Su Yu said to the two beside him, "Go." The Shenyang Chamber of Commerce was built in a place with a lot of people in the city, and there was more than one place. Si took Zhang Chushuan and the three to a branch closest to Qingliangshuan and said, "Guest officer, this is the place. According to your requirements." The small one picked a little. "Only this Shenyang Chamber of Commerce may have what you need." "Well, thanks for telling me." Zhang Chushuan nodded slightly, and prepared to walk towards the center with the two women. Seeing that Si did not move, he turned his head and said in doubt, "You don't go in." "Hee, guest officer, the small status is low, you can't go in. However, the small one will wait outside, but if the guest official has any orders, the small one will definitely appear at the first time." When Zhang Chushuan heard this, he didn't force too much, so he walked in first. Three guests want something. As soon as they entered it, the waiter who had the function of shopping guide in the store walked towards them. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan said, "We want to select some spiritual weapons, the lowest Zan rank. If there are earth rank and heaven rank, we can also collect them all. 100-fold reward ability is in hand, and this kind of buying behavior is absolutely not a loss." Upon hearing this, the waiter's eyes suddenly lit up. "This is a patron, distinguished guest." Thinking of this, the waiter hurriedly bent down and guided Zhang Chushuan towards it. "Guest officer, please. All magic weapons or spiritual weapons in our Chamber of Commerce are on the third floor, please move." Nodding slightly, the three of Zhang Chushuan followed him towards the third floor. The Shenyang Chamber of Commerce is magnificent, decorated very elegantly, and unconventional. On the first floor are some counters, cut into pieces with some transparent spars, and some heavenly treasures and mortal artifacts are placed in them. On the second floor, there are rooms. Zhang Chushuan can't see the layout clearly, but people come and go. You can also know that the business here is good, and the quality of the items is better. There are fewer people on the third floor, which can basically be described as deserted. At this time, only Zhang Chushuan and the three of them came here. The third AEE building, like the first floor, is a hall, but there are no people except for a few chairs and an old man lying on a chair and closing his eyes. As soon as he came to the third floor, the waiter walked to the old man and said respectfully, "The treasurer, there is a distinguished guest who has arrived." When the old man heard this, he slowly opened his eyes and looked at the three Zhang Chushuan. For a long time, he waved his hand at the waiter and said, "You go down first." "Yes, the treasurer." The waiter nodded hurriedly, and as he passed by Zhang Chushuan, he said in a low voice, "If the three distinguished guests have any needs, just tell the treasurer." There were only 4 people left in the field, and the old man, that is, the shopkeeper, did not hurry to get up, but said, "3, I don't know what kind of spiritual weapon I need. Are all fire attribute spiritual weapons here? Are there any other attributes?" Hearing this, the shopkeeper looked at Zhang Chushuan seriously and slowly spoke, "If you want it, it's not nothing. It's just a while to wait. However, it also depends on what type of guest needs." Zhang Chushuan thought that Yun Xuanjian did not have a suitable weapon, and explained, "I want a sword." "Sword, we have a lot here, and please be careful." Quote. A knife without any attributes, the treasurer, is there. At this moment, the shopkeeper finally sat up straight and stared at Zhang Chushuan. In general, each knife carries one or even several different properties to a greater or lesser extent. In the territory of their Shengyang Gate, the most is the fire attribute knife. Coupled with the difference in the material of the forging knife, it will be contaminated with other attributes, so Zhang Chushuan's words made the shopkeeper ponder for a moment. For a long time, he smiled and nodded. The guest came very coincidentally. Not long ago, this Chamber of Commerce just received a sword, which meets the requirements of the guest, but it is not. As soon as Zhang Chushuan heard this, he understood what the other party meant, and casually took out some spirit stones from the space attached to the system, and said, "Spirit stones are indispensable for the treasurer." 5. That's not what the old man said. Shaking his head slightly, the shopkeeper finally got up and said, "This sword was entrusted by an employer to be sold in this Chamber of Commerce." The employer said that as long as he agreed to his conditions, the knife could be given to the other party for free. Oh, hearing this, Zhang Chushuan raised his eyebrows and became interested. Generally, such a routine is enough to explain the origin of this knife, or that it itself is unusual. Pacing in the hall, it seemed that he had thought for a long time before the shopkeeper continued to speak. "Do you know why Shengyangmen is located here?" The sudden change of topic made Zhang Chushuan a little puzzled, waiting for the other party to continue speaking. Obviously, the shopkeeper did not expect Zhang Chushuan to really answer. According to rumors, there are countless fire veins in the place where the Shengyang Gate is located. Mesh G. 80%. Chapter 318. Shengyangmen Mixin, Nameless Sword, subscription required. And the cultivators of Shengyang Gate cultivate with these fire veins. But with the passage of time, some of the fire veins that were originally eternal are gradually drying up, until they finally become a waste vein. After continuous investigation by Shengyangmen, the source of such things was finally discovered. Speaking of this, the shopkeeper paused for a moment before continuing. At the center of the fire vein, it seems that a flame, giant beast has awakened. 5. After it woke up, it continued to devour the surrounding fire veins, and gradually formed the situation at that time. Therefore, many elders of the Shengyang Gate joined forces to seal the giant beast in an attempt to prevent it from continuing to devour. But who knows, after the giant beast is sealed, although it converges a little, it can still continue to devour and strengthen its body. 35. The treasurer tells the story like a story. After the giant beast was sealed, it still couldn't reassure the elders of the Shengyang Gate, and at that time, it was building a peerless sword, and it couldn't be affected by anything. But for the sake of that sword, they continued to work as little as possible without attracting the attention of the giant beast. On the day the sword was completed, a vision had descended from heaven. Many people were excited about this, and the elder who presided over the sword forging was even more excited, and kept saying that this was heaven bless Shengyangmen, and Shengyangmen was prosperous. But at this moment, the sealed beast, suddenly and somehow affected the final completion, the vision completely disappeared, and the sword was forged failed. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan couldn't help but speak. "Since it is a failure, how can you say that it is a good sword?" "Hee. Guests, don't worry." The shopkeeper took a sip of tea to moisten his throat before continuing to speak. It turned out that everyone in Shengyangmen thought the same as Zhang Chushuan at that time. Since this sword was already a waste sword, all their efforts were in vain, and under the depression, many people left on the spot. But the elder who presided over the forging of the sword could not bear to destroy his own hard work and wanted to start over. After some investigation, he discovered something amazing. Although this sword looks like a mortal weapon, it is definitely a peerless sword, which can split the forging furnace in one fell swoop. But it was strange that here, no matter how the elder infused the aura, it did not move. A mortal weapon, if it is infused with a large amount of spiritual energy, will definitely not be able to withstand the breakage, but the sword is not the slightest abnormal. The elders who have tried many times finally decided to put this sword in this Chamber of Commerce in an attempt to find out the key to it. He has only one condition: to increase the seal, or rather, to kill the beast. Hearing this, Zhang Chushuan frowned. Such a request is really a bit strange. Regardless of whether the story of the treasurer is true, Zhang Chushuan felt that the strength of the giant beast that could make many elders unable to help was probably already at the peak of the divine mansion realm. Coupled with the blessing of the fire vein, the strength can be a little stronger. Even if it is the power of the ordinary Holy Lord, it is not easy to fight at will. This may be the reason why the people of Shengyangmen are not willing to spend the price to kill the giant beast. After all, the foundation of Shengyangmen is there. If you completely anger that giant beast, it may be life-threatening. Of course, Zhang Chushuan is not afraid. Unless this giant beast has combat power close to the king. Even if there is, it is a big deal that he will break through and destroy with the power of the king. The question is whether this behemoth is worth his shot. How would the guest want to think about it? After leaving Zhang Chushuan enough time to think, the shopkeeper continued to speak. Being able to help Sheng Yongmen solve a trouble is to be kind to them. 5. In the future, it will be much more convenient to act inside the Shengyang gate. That sword is also a good sword, and it is impossible to go wrong. 35. Oh, has the shopkeeper seen that sword? Zhang Chushuan came interested. Hearing this, the shopkeeper smiled mysteriously and just clapped his hands. A beautiful waiter, carrying a tray, took out the sword. Zhang Chushuan looked at him, but at first he didn't notice anything unusual. The sword is fiery red, but it looks faded and very pale in color. The sword body is engraved with intricate patterns, which should be able to make the cultivator of the fire attribute more able to exert the power of the sword. Ding! With a flick of it, this sword immediately made a crisp sound, which lasted for a long time, shaking the void. Zhang Chushuan was even more interested at this time, looked at the sword and said, "Does this sword have a name?" 35. Not really. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan continued to observe. It seemed that he was a little impatient to wait, and the shopkeeper said, "I wonder if the guest wants to do it." Hee, this matter, I next. This sword, can I take it away? This. Still can't. This time, it was the shopkeeper who was a little embarrassed. Sheng Yongmen's request is that when that matter is solved, this sword will naturally belong to the guest. But rest assured, the old man will also be there at that time to keep this sword. It will not be handed over to Sheng Yongmen. Quote. Good. Zero asking for flowers. Upon hearing this, Zhang Chushuan seemed relieved and said to the treasurer, "Then bother the keeper for a while. Tomorrow, I will go to Sheng Yongmen to solve this matter." Hee. Good. The shopkeeper was overjoyed when he heard this, and hurriedly said, "Then the old man's name is waiting for the guests to come and go with the guests." 39. Zhang Chushuan did not speak, but left with Wu Yanxi Baidan's 2 daughters. Zhang Chushuan, why did you promise to come down? When she was about to return to Qingliangshuan, Baitanur finally couldn't help but be curious in her heart, and asked, "It stands to reason that there should be something strange in this matter, and you shouldn't fail to see it." Quote. It is precisely because I can see that I have to go there myself. Zhang Chushuan smiled slightly. That sword is indeed unusual, but what the treasurer said is not completely true. 0. Then you still go. Baitanur saw that Zhang Chushuan already knew that this was a scam made by Sheng Yongmen, and wondered why he had to agree. Obviously, Sheng Yongmen wanted to kill the giant beast effortlessly and deliberately seduced cannon fodder. It is estimated that in the end, they are not willing to pay any price. But Zhang Chushuan did not answer her words, and returned to Qingliangshuan in silence. But the guest officer has no gain. The proprietress seemed to be very curious about Zhang Chushuan, and after seeing the other party return, she put down her affairs and greeted them. Yes, it's just that you have to wait for a while. 99. That's right, if you want to get a good magic weapon, you usually need those forging masters to customize it. The proprietress obviously misunderstood Zhang Chushuan's meaning and said, "It takes some time, of course." 35. In that case, please stay in the small shop with peace of mind. If you have any requirements, just tell me. 35. Without waiting for Zhang Chushuan to agree or not, the lady turned and left. Zhang Chushuan didn't bother to explain. One night without words. The next morning, Zhang Chushuan had just finished breakfast with the 2 daughters in Qingliangshuan, and the treasurer of the Shengyang Chamber of Commerce was at the door. There was also a young man beside him, carrying a wooden box behind him, presumably the same sword he had seen yesterday. As soon as he saw Zhang Chushuan, the shopkeeper came over with a smile and said, "I wonder if the guests are ready." This unusual enthusiasm made Zhang Chushuan raise his eyebrows slightly. However, he still did not move, and nodded, "Let's go," and ask the treasurer to lead the way. River. 80%. Chapter 319 Forging a Spiritual Weapon in Public, Looking for Someone with a Fate. Subscription required. Oh, little things, little things. The shopkeeper hurriedly waved his hand, and said in a small way, "Anyway, that sword is placed in the Chamber of Commerce, maybe no one cares about it, and the old man is just curious." The group headed towards the Shengyang gate under the leadership of the treasurer. The proprietress stared at their backs, her eyes rolling, not knowing what she was thinking. Sheng Yongmen is like being built on a volcano, and there are basically no plants and trees growing in the vicinity of 10 miles. And the further you go inside, the higher the temperature gets. Halfway through, the shopkeeper was already sweating profusely, and smiled apologetically at Zhang Chushuan behind him. People are old and can't do enough, please don't mind the guests. 39. A statue suspected of being a divine mansion, at least a real person in the Jaden realm, said such a thing, it was really funny. But Zhang Chushuan didn't say anything, just followed the shopkeeper's continued walk. However, the more he walked inside, the more people Zhang Chushuan found that there were more people coming and going around. Among them, there are many people with uniform clothing, presumably, 423, are disciples of Shengyang sect. But more often than not, it was monks dressed differently. Shopkeeper, what's going on? Zhang Chushuan suddenly opened his mouth and asked the shopkeeper. He had already guessed this situation, and he was more certain of Sheng Yangmin's wishful thinking. But there must be an inquiry. Otherwise, you would be a fool. Hearing this, the shopkeeper hurriedly turned around, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and said, I forgot to tell the guest that today is the day of the opening of the furnace in Shengyangmin. Usually at this time, all the forces in Shengyang City will rush to Shengyangmin to watch. But just watching doesn't attract so many people. After a pause, the shopkeeper continued, Shengyangmin will select one of the earth-level spiritual weapons that open the furnace and give it to the destined person. This fateful person may be a disciple of the Shengyang sect, or it may be an outsider. 99. So it attracts so many people. Looking at today's posture, I'm afraid that what is produced may be a high-grade spiritual weapon, or even a spiritual weapon. This practice of Shengyangmin, Zhang Chushuan did not comment too much. After all, this is a way for the other party to gather people's hearts. Coming to the Shengyang gate, 2 disciples were guarding it. The shopkeeper took the initiative to step forward and said something to them, only to see that the 2 disciples immediately became respectful and invited the shopkeeper to enter it. Let's go. The shopkeeper turned back to Zhang Chushuan and greeted them, and then took the initiative to walk inside. As soon as he entered it, Zhang Chushuan noticed the difference, ideographic comma. Although it is very hot outside, it is very cool to go through the door and it is like entering a refrigerator. The surrounding area is no longer scorched earth, it is full of life and all kinds of plants and trees are flourishing. There are also many spirit beasts flying in the air, like a fairyland on earth. Wow, this place is amazing, Baitanur exclaimed, her eyes full of surprise. Seeing this, the shopkeeper on the side explained with a smile. This is a formation laid down by the ancestors of Shengyangmin and their friends, which can transform the spiritual energy of the fire veins in the mountains into spiritual energy that can be absorbed by all kinds of creatures. After decades of transformation by them, it has become what it is now. What the shopkeeper said has some truth, and just so many plants and trees, if you just absorb the fire aura, it will be impossible to survive for a long time. Led the 3 of them all the way, and finally, they stopped in the square in front of the temple of Shengyangmin. This is basically the configuration of each sect, which is usually used for the disciples in the sect to practice or teach. Like today, it is a venue. Come on, sit down first. 35. The shopkeeper seemed to have a good position in the Shengyang gate, and pulled Zhang Chushuan and them straight to sit down on the chairs in the second row in front of them, waiting for the furnace to be opened. More and more people gathered in the square, and it was already crowded near noon. At this time, the people of Shengyangmin finally appeared, making the field a little quiet. Thank you all for coming. A Shengyangmin man who resembled an elder stood in front of everyone with a smile on his face. Everyone has seen this matter of opening the furnace many times, so the old man will not talk much nonsense. Again, those who have a fate get it. Boom, one by one. As the elder's voice fell, a huge forging furnace immediately appeared in front of him, burning with raging flames. There is a flow of light in it, and it seems that it is about to take shape. Behind the elder, there were 12 Shengyang sect disciples lined up, and there was a forging furnace in front of them, but it was smaller. Up. The elder pinched his hands, and the light cluster in the forging furnace in front of him split into 12 and flew towards the disciples behind him. Those disciples also moved one after another, drawing circles with their hands, and easily connected the light cluster into the forging furnace. Blazing fire, help me forge soldiers. With a low drink in his mouth, the light cluster appeared on the table next to the forging furnace. The items in the light cluster finally surfaced, and it was a spiritual weapon with different handles. Jingle bell. The light cluster in the elder's hand was the largest, and the spiritual weapon that appeared was even more exquisite and abnormal. At this time, they have already begun to carry out the final processing of the spiritual artifact, and it will soon be available. 0. Ding ding. About an hour later, just when everyone was impatient to wait, the elder gulped, and the spiritual weapon in his hand suddenly burst into 1,000 rays of light, and a proud smile appeared on his face. The 12 disciples behind him also seemed to be affected, completing at almost the same time. Guys, luck is opening today. 35. In addition to the expected 12 Zon tier spiritual weapons, there is also an Earth tier spiritual weapon. 35. Shish, Earth tier spirit weapon. Is it so good luck today? I just don't know, in whose hands will this Earth step spiritual weapon fall into? This is still worth thinking. Of course, it is the Shengyang Gate. We can get one of the Zon tier spiritual weapons, even if it is a great creation. Oh, too, it's me who thinks too much. Those who spoke were some Jaden Realm scattered cultivators, even if the Zon tier spiritual weapons were extremely attractive to them. There was a lot of talk below, and the elders seemed intent on giving them time. After a little silence in the field, the elder continued, "All right, everyone. Next, it's time to see your fate. Interested friends, please step forward." Under the command of the great elder, all the onlookers stepped forward one after another, even Shengyangmin's own disciples. Nodding slightly, the elder waved his hand and suspended the 12 Zon tier spiritual weapons, as well as the 1 Earth tier spiritual weapon, in the air. The next moment, he silently chanted some incantations in his mouth, and suddenly, the light of these spiritual weapons soared, blocking everyone's vision. Open. Everyone only heard the elder shout, and the light disappeared. Raising his head, the 12 spiritual weapons and that 1 spiritual weapon all disappeared. Just when everyone was confused, the elder suddenly smiled and said, "This time the destined person has appeared." Following the gaze of the great elder, everyone turned their heads to look. A middle-aged man with a sharp mouth and a thin body was looking forward with dull eyes. In his arms, a spiritual weapon fell. Boom, one by one. Almost instantly, a loud discussion erupted in the crowd, drowning out everyone. Who is this? He's too lucky, isn't he? That is, looking at him like this, he is not a good person, and it is really a cruel thing to be able to get such a treasure. Although the eyes are red, everyone has not thought about snatching. After all, Shengyangmin will observe these people for several years, and once they die, Shengyangmin will take revenge on the murderer. Everyone be quiet. 81%. Chapter 320. Zhang Chushuan, not strong, quite tone, subscription. Hearing the whispers below, the elder finally let out a loud sigh and stabilized the situation. When he couldn't hear the sound, the elder spoke quietly, "You are right. Anyone who is related to the Shengyangmin spiritual weapon will be protected by Shengyangmin for a period of time. Quote. During this period, no one is allowed to do anything to the owner of the treasure, otherwise, they will be enemies of my Shengyang Gate." 35. Well, I will gather you here today. In addition to the ordinary furnace, there is another important matter, Shengyangmin, to announce. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on the elder, expecting his next words. As we all know, my Shengyang Gate has the scale it has today, thanks to the huge fire vein underground. Shengyang City can have today's scale, which is also based on this. But not long ago, I found in Shengyangmin that the underground fire vein was depleted, but there was some shortage of manpower in the gate. Therefore, Shengyangmin sincerely invites all Taoists to explore the reason for the depletion of the fire vein. Anyone who can get a useful Line 04 cable, Shengyangmin will thank you with a generous gift. Quote. However, there is a time limit for this, just within a month. After pausing for a moment, after everyone digested the question, he continued, within a month, Taoists who can find the cause of the depletion of the fire vein can come to my Shengyang Enlightenment Room, retreat for 1 year. Whoosh. One stone stirred up 1,000 waves, and the words of the elder of Shengyangmin made most people move. But some also know that problems that even Shengyangmin itself can't solve must be quite difficult. Sure enough, the elder then spoke. However, Nian is in danger in the fire vein, and Shengyangmin has decided to distribute 10 blazing yang pills to you in order to protect the safety of all Taoists. 35. Without saying a word, hundreds of clusters of light flew out from the elder's body, and they fell in front of everyone. Zhang Chushuan naturally has this light cluster in front of him. After reaching out to accept, a fiery red porcelain bottle appeared in Zhang Chushuan's hand. When I opened it, it contained 10 red elixirs engraved with flame cloud patterns, lying quietly in it. Nodding slightly, Zhang Chushuan put away the blazing yang pill. This elixir is really good. It can block the erosion of fire poison, but the effect is not very powerful, and it varies from person to person. After everyone had put it away, the elder continued. Next, the Shengyang Gate announced that except for the scope of the sect, all the rest of the fire vein area will be open to the public. It seems that this time Shengyangman is really here. Usually, the fire pulse has always been in the hands of Shengyangman, and if you want to use it, you have to get their consent and pay a certain fee. 99. Could it be that Shengyangman has really encountered a crisis? Everyone's guesses are different, but for them, it's all good. Taking advantage of this time, they can refine their magic or spiritual weapons well. Okay, let's disperse and try to find the problem of the fire pulse as soon as possible. Thank you, Elder. I will definitely live up to my trust. Elder, wait for our good news. Many people gave up and promised to come down. Soon, only the disciples of Shengyangman were left in the square, as well as Zhang Chushuan and the treasurer. Seeing that Zhang Chushuan had not left, the elder looked at the other party with a smile. This Taoist friend, I don't know what is going on with you. 5. It seems that the Liyang pill has been distributed to Taoists just now. I heard that there is a problem with your fire vein, so isn't this to help you solve the trouble? The old man has already said it clearly. The elder's eyes condensed slightly, and there was a slight displeasure in his expression. The fire veins connect to the underground and form their own network. If Taoists sincerely want to get the generous reward of their own sect, they should seize the time and investigate so that they can investigate, instead of wasting time here. Quote. Dare to ask the elder, what is there in the vein of fire, so that you can save the lives of the disciples in the sect even if you release so many benefits. 99. Taoist, what do you mean by this? Upon hearing this, the elder was furious. He stepped forward and glared at Zhang Chushuan. This is because my Shengyang Gate is short of manpower, so I asked for outside help. Why did you spray blood? Whether it is blood spurting people, the elder knows in his heart. By this time, Zhang Chushuan had basically understood what kind of calculation this Shengyangman was making. I just touched a point, and I almost made the other party fried, and it seems that the other party wants a lot. However, Zhang Chushuan himself will not be stupid to meet them and take the initiative to debunk their plot. Thinking of this, Zhang Chushuan turned around and walked towards the outside of Shengyang Gate. Shopkeeper, let's go, let's come back another day. 35. Officer, it's not. Coming here today is not something important. It's okay to wait for the injury for a while. Stop. 9. At this time, the elder finally couldn't bear it anymore and scolded Zhang Chushuan. I go to the Yang Gate, how can I come and leave when I say it? With 4 fingers of his right hand facing each other, the elder let out a low groan in his mouth, and the spiritual energy in the air suddenly converged. The elder's right hand was raised, and a fire dragon condensed along the way, Yanlong technique. As the elder's voice fell, a crimson dragon emerged from in front of him, roaring and galloping towards Zhang Chushuan. Feeling the blazing heat coming from behind, a sneer appeared at the corner of Zhang Chushuan's mouth, and he responded to the other party, is this your way of hospitality in Shengyangman? Dragon Yuan Heaven Falls. Returning a slap to the other party, Zhang Chushuan stood in place, his clothes blown away by the aftermath. It was the elder who took 5 or 6 steps back before stopping his figure, but his eyes were already full of horror. 423. Quote, don't do anything about you, me. 35 inches. Turning around, Zhang Chushuan did not have that faint smile on his face, only a chill. If you make another move, don't blame me for being polite to you, and you are not polite to Shengyangman. 55. Humph. What a big breath. I don't know if my tone is big, but I know that your tone is quite big. KR. The two sides are tense, and they have to start again. At this time, the shopkeeper hurriedly stood among them, and persuaded with a smile, the two dissipate, why bother so much? In this way, how about selling the old man a face, and the two of them turning into jade? HMPH. When the elder heard this, he snorted coldly and walked directly towards the door, not giving them a chance to speak. Seeing this, the shopkeeper could only sigh helplessly, and turned to Zhang Chushuan and said, Taoist, I'm really embarrassed. Originally, I led you here today to prepare to contact Shengyangman. But who knows, something like this will happen. Alas, it's all the old man who didn't think it through, and asked Taoist friends to blame. The treasurer is serious, there are still some things in the future, and I have to trouble the treasurer. Under the leadership of the treasurer, Zhang Chushuan returned to the Qingliang Zan of Shengyang City. Returned to the Qingliang Zan of Shengyang City. Returned to the Qingliang